29, and pledge allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay. Public forum. We have Kevin Reese.
Come up to the mic. You want a mic? Please, because like last board meeting, people talking from the audience, I could not hear on Twitch. Kevin, why don't you come up and use this one? Touch it or just talk to it? Whatever you want to do. Just break it down. I think you might. It's taped, yeah. Well, we'll do this. We're here again tonight to address the board regarding our reopening. The members of the Taconic Hills Faculty Association and I are deeply concerned with the district's choices with regard to the health and safety of students and staff upon returning to campus next week with so many questions unanswered. The governor has been clear. Districts must engage with parents and teachers, which means our association, to continue developing the reopening plan. We must have full confidence in any plan before a district even thinks about moving forward. Our school board's decision on how we reopen, it's our school board's decision on how we reopen, whether that's immediate or phasing in, reopening in person, a hybrid model, or full remote learning. As our school board's policy and decision-making body, it's imperative that you hear us. We know there are board members who don't feel comfortable with the in-person plan reflected in their decision not to send their children to school. Other boards of ed have made their voices heard by voting on reopening plans, and they know they will be held liable for the impact of their decisions that they have on the community. Our Taconic Hills Faculty Association family is at home safely watching on Twitch, and they would like answers. New York State has required the district work with teachers and parents about what the safest options are for our students and community. As of today, parents and teachers still have real concerns with the lack of detail in the plan the district is choosing to implement. Plans must include policies regarding vulnerable populations who are at increased risk for COVID-19 illness, individuals who may not feel comfortable returning to an in-person educational environment. There's no clear direction on how a remote option will work for our students. The district must give our members and parents a fair opportunity to be heard. Many of our members fear retaliation for speaking up or expressing valid concerns. Teachers were never surveyed about their attitudes towards the reopening by the district. As pointed out previously, recommendations from numerous subcommittees were ignored, including committees that many of you sat on. Members have sent letters, emails, and made calls. The information sessions for parents offered by the district were formatted to avoid real-time discussion of concerns. Parents submitted many thoughtful questions, but were met with vague, generic responses. The association took the responsibility of surveying our members, and of those surveyed, 102 are not comfortable with the current reopening plan. Of that 102 members, 75% would be more comfortable going forward with a hybrid plan. Those numbers speak volumes about how the staff feels regarding our full in-person reopening. The THFA would like you to strongly reconsider the risk that you are creating in our community and request the implementation of the proposed hybrid plan to reduce the number of students in the building, alleviate busing issues, and allow more thorough cleaning during the week. The use of a hybrid plan addresses the concerns of those who fear losing in-person instruction, but balances that with a reduced risk of community spread by increased exposure. Families who would have favored a hybrid plan were forced to choose between an all or nothing, many who rely on school services. In addition to those points, the hybrid plan was the recommendation of numerous subcommittees. Since March, and especially through the summer, there have been an incredible spirit of empathy among the teachers and the staff. We have voluntarily attended countless Zoom sessions, online community forums, and in-person meetings in good faith, in hopes that we would reach a decision that everyone would be comfortable with. The health and safety of our students and staff remain the top priority of the THFA. We cannot allow our school to become a center for spreading COVID-19 infections to our families and communities. The potential loss of a Tohono Hills community member would be felt for many years. Please consider changing your decision, as the weight of your choice could affect the lives of so many. Thank you.
Connie,
Thank you.
may I ask one question?
Go ahead.
Sir? Kevin,
Oh,
I just have one question for you.
yes.
Are you aware of the number of students that have chosen the home option?
No, I'm not. I've heard it's been a couple hundred, but I'm not sure.
So, my question to you is, I believe, what's the number, Neil? 200?
I don't have the...
272.
272, so we're looking at more than 10% reduction. And just my question to you was, with the number of students that have been reduced in the school, which brings us down to, I think there's 1,250 students of 272 who are under 1,000 students in the school. With that reduction of the number of students, do you still have those concerns with the population reduced as is?
Yes, we still have those concerns. Additionally, I think a hybrid model would allow us to be able to see how the students adapt to this new environment. Kids wearing masks, socially distancing. We could help teach the half of the body of the kids at a time, rather than having 100% of them here.
Thank you.
I think it'd be more difficult. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin. Next up, we have Tara Dunspaugh.
Good evening. My name is Tara Dunspaugh, and I've been a faculty member here at Tohono Hills Elementary since 2000. I began my career here as a new teacher, just out of college, and excited to begin my career. I was even more excited to make a difference in the lives of children. I only share this because I want you to understand my level of commitment to the Tohono Hills community and to its children. I take a lot of pride in what I do, which is what is driving me to speak to you tonight. We are very close to our opening date, yet we have no clear guidance on how our remote learning will work. I do not know what is expected. I'm now not just doing the job of one teacher, but of two. Having been a teacher for 20 years, I understand that there are times that call for extra ingenuity and creativity, understanding, patience, and effort. But as I sit each day and ponder what this task may look like, it becomes more and more obvious that these are two completely different styles of teaching and learning, and therefore needs to be delivered in two very different ways. If there is one thing I learned by teaching from home in the spring, it's that there are many platforms available to teach remotely. However, they are not resources that can be utilized the correct way while I am teaching in person. For our remote learning plan to be fair and equitable to the children who are opting to stay home, they need a teacher that is dedicated to just them, who will be able to deliver remote instruction in a way that they can fairly access and learn from. The children that are in the classroom will have a huge advantage over the children who are learning from home using our current plan. Simply opening up the laptop and turning on the camera will not work in an elementary classroom. Elementary teachers don't just use a lecture format, and therefore the children at home are going to struggle with many things, such as having to try to see what is being modeled on the board, what is being read in the book, and what is being shared amongst the children to develop what we call anchor charts. I can't imagine the frustration that will be felt by these children. Having a dedicated remote learning teacher for each grade level to teach in a remote format is only way that they will be able to stay engaged and grow as learners. Seeing how remote learning went over the spring, there will be many times that the children will need assistance with locating materials. But now, teachers will be troubleshooting while they are trying to deliver in-person instruction. Because of the dual role that is being placed upon teachers, I imagine that there will be an incredible amount of lost instructional time due to management concerns that will most definitely pop up throughout the day, every day. These are just some of the concerns that my colleagues and I have with tackling the two jobs at the same time. There are, without a doubt, many more. Depending on the grade level and subject area, the concerns can be vastly different. I would like you to consider what I have said tonight, and please think about how the children learning from home deserve a fair and equitable education that can only be delivered by a dedicated remote learning teacher. Requiring classroom teachers to do both at the same time will not be beneficial to any of the children. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next up, Christine Costa. Huh?
I have nothing.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we need a motion for the acceptance of the agenda. Can I have a motion, please? Ron, second. Joe. I need to add at the end additional items to discuss that was left off of the agenda, so we're going to add that after public forum. All right. Any other questions on the agenda?
Question?
Yes.
So, 2 board meetings ago, we had an impromptu addition to the agenda to discuss whether a letter should be sent to those voters whose ballots were rejected. The superintendent had offered to send a letter explaining that their ballots were not accepted and why, and what they would have to do to ensure that they were able to vote next time. During that meeting, there was no motion for the vote. There was no second. A vote was taken. There is nothing in the minutes about the results of the vote. There are members of the community that view that as voter suppression. Now, I know that if all those votes were counted, it would not have any effect on the outcome of the election because Heidi won by many more votes than that. So it's not about changing the outcome of the election, but it is about what we've committed as a board to ensure that as many people can vote and that people don't feel disenfranchised. Now, Bonnie brought up the view of cost to the school system. At 55 cents a stamp, $5 for a ream of paper, $15 for a box of envelopes, and me volunteering to stuff those envelopes, it will cost the school system less, approximately $200. So I'd like to make a motion that we reverse that decision at almost no cost to the school in an effort to be more inclusive to our community about voting and voting rights. So I'd like to make a motion to revote on that item as my motion.
I'm not sure how our agenda gets modified at this point.
This was something that we will add to the additional items to discuss, and we will discuss if we're going to bring it up at the next board meeting. That's what the procedure that we decided, or well, we didn't decide, that we talked about at the retreat. So I think that's probably the best avenue to go. So at the additional items to discuss, you'll bring that up, and that's where we will decide if we will bring that up at the next meeting. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
So at the additional items, we'll do that then.
So it'll be part of the additional items
Yes.
for this evening?
Yes. Okay? All right. So any other questions on the agenda?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Considering the fact that we've received close to 30 emails, all but one supported what we heard this evening from the 2 representatives.
concerns be discussed tonight during the superintendent's report? No. Well, I would like to add that as an agenda item because clearly, for any plan to be successful, whether it's related to COVID or instructional initiative or curriculum that's newly adopted, the consensus and buy-in by the parties who have to deliver it is essential. On the district's website, we speak to, there's a section about shared decision-making. In terms of the governor's executive order, there is an expectation that the reopening plan would be developed in consultation with the community. And having participated in the consultation at 3 meetings, the plan as it's being put forward doesn't represent what I was a part of, and it's not something that I feel comfortable with.
Well, look, wait, let me just stop. That's another thing that we can add to the additional items to discuss. We will put that on there, and then we will decide if we're going to talk about it at the next board meeting.
Well, the problem with that is the next board meeting.
I understand, but that's the
After the start of
procedure.
school opening.
I understand, but that's the procedure that we discussed at the retreat, and that's what we need.
Well, that procedure
we need to
doesn't-
follow that procedure.
I think the procedure does not allow for a timely discussion.
I
of the
understand
matter.
that, but we're not changing the agenda. So we'll add it to the additional items to discuss, and we'll discuss it at that time, okay?
It's not a,
It's an additional item
Well-
to discuss.
I'd like to make a motion that we add it to the agenda now.
I would second that.
Anyone in favor of that?
Okay, I think we should.
At the additional items to discuss.
Right.
I can't hear you. Even with the microphone.
I just supported you. I want to talk about it, the additional item discussed.
Tonight, you want to talk about it tonight, not at the next board meeting.
Right, tonight.
No.
Additional items to discuss, we will put it on
No,
there.
no, that's not what we're saying, and I don't think that's what Veronica.
That's what you just said. Additional items to discuss is where we're going to discuss it.
We're not going to discuss it at the next board meeting. We'll discuss the additional items tonight.
Tonight,
Okay.
okay? All right. Any more questions on the agenda? All in favor?
With the addition of the 2 things we just spoke about.
Yes, they're added, Dave. Okay, I need a motion for the acceptance of the consensus agenda. Motion? Motion? Joe? Second. Ron? All right, we got a lot of stuff to go over here. So, we have Ms. Darby D'Elia, who is resigning as the social studies content coordinator and is going to be the assistant principal, as long as we vote on that. And let's see, and then we have Brianna Beebe. Is she new to this?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Welcome, Brianna, if you're here. Julianne Jennings, also new to the school
Yes.
district. Welcome, Julianne. We have Ashley Goodacre, who will be our district clerk and the secretary of the district superintendent. We have Eileen Olson, who will be our tax collector. Welcome. We have mentor teachers, teaching assistants. Let's see what else. Oh, we had a retirement, Mrs. Fulworth. Congratulations, and we wish you well. And what else do we have? School improvement grant initiatives. These are all the different committees. Any questions on any of these? Anyone?
I just, maybe it's something about consensus agendas. The consensus agenda includes all of the appointments to the various positions.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to acknowledge the appointment of Darby Delia, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yes.
Which, having participated yesterday, not yesterday, 2 days ago in the interviews, was very, very impressed. I don't know you personally, but had the opportunity to participate in that interview process. And I wish you well in the new position.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, any other questions on the consensus agenda?
So the replacement for Jordan,
For what? I'm sorry?
replacement for
Ashley
Jordan.
Goodacre.
Yeah, Ashley. Good? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. All right, we have reports and presentations, superintendent report.
Okay, so we continued our meetings with Questar 3 Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays to discuss the different versions of interpretations of the governor's orders. Sometimes legal counsel is with us at those times. And every Wednesday, we do have our meeting with the Columbia County Department of Health in Questar. And we've been discussing a lot of those suggestions that come out of the Department of Health that we've incorporated into the plan. And we've also been discussing a lot about the reduction in foundation aid, with the governor asking us to plan for 20%. And what that means seems to be able to affect a lot of other school districts more negatively than Taconic Hills at this point. But we'll hear more about it later, I'm sure, as it really starts to take effect and people have to make decisions. Some of the decisions that they're talking about are not having pre-K anymore, actually being forced to go remote because they don't have enough money to pay for aides, TAs, and bus drivers. So those are some concerns. We continue to get a couple of the notifications. I sent one out today on Shepherd's Run, the solar farm behind the school. And I'm going to be talking with the attorneys about that, and also the Columbia County Economic Development Corporation. I hope to focus on pilots and where they stand in the process. I'm sure at some point that the board will want to discuss it, but I guess I just don't have enough information right now. Terry, who's involved with the town board, seems to have more information than I do. The governor approved sports that are low risk. If you didn't see that, it includes golf, cross-country, soccer, tennis, field hockey, and swimming for competitions, and they're still holding only on practices for football, wrestling, rugby, and ice hockey. Section 2 is debating the plan and how to move forward. I know all the sections met earlier this week after the governor's announcement, and they hope to have something for us by Friday so that we can start planning if we are going to do that, participate in that way. NYSSBA online conference opened up today as far as registrations go. I'll probably be sending you an email. I did that already once and got 4 or 5 of you, and we'll see if you'd like to participate online. There still is a cost. I believe it's $260. I did talk with Mark Snyder about a retreat, and I think we're going to talk about that and additional items to discuss on goals and mission statement on September 23rd at 5 o'clock. He is available.
Is that a retreat or a workshop?
Technically, that's a workshop in their minds,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have a problem if we called it a workshop.
Can you repeat that
So-
again? September 23rd at 5?
September 23rd at 5 p.m. All right, that's a tentative date. I was going to confirm with you guys tonight and then contact him tomorrow. But Bonnie asked to put that on for additional items to discuss, but I still had it on my list to talk about.
That's a Wednesday, by the way.
Yes, that is Wednesday. We've all done the mandated sexual harassment training as the new rules went into effect August 14th. And on the agenda also you have where we've done the training for evaluation of the teachers. I have yet to complete the training for the evaluation of the principals. So hopefully that'll get some time, end of this week, next week, to get that, knock that out, and that'll be on the next agenda. That's it, thank you.
Thank you.
So
Yeah,
when we,
go ahead, Craig.
the list of approved sports, is that a New York State list or is that a Taconic Hills list?
New York State.
New York State, I mean, I'm surprised that wrestling, as an example,
Wrestling can't compete, but they can practice. Okay, but now the sections have to decide what they're going to do, along with New York State Public High School Athletic Association.
I understand.
So there's a layers to this.
Okay, but practicing, I'm assuming, means that two wrestlers
Yeah.
on the same team would practice with each other when have direct physical contact with
That's
each
a
other.
possibility. I'm at this point asking them to do conditioning. Conditioning can be done 12 feet apart, but that's a winter sport, so we've got some time to figure that out. We're in the fall season now.
I was surprised at soccer and field hockey because anyone that doesn't think that that's a contact sport has never played, apparently.
These are discussions we had
Just saying.
at the Questar level, at the state level, with the State Department of Health and Columbia County Department of Health. And we're following their guidance.
Okay. It's bizarre. Any other questions?
In terms of the Columbia County Department of Health, Neil, what is their guidance regarding testing for COVID?
Can you repeat that, please?
You have to speak louder. You can't, sorry, can't hear you.
Oh,
The question was testing for COVID. So I guess Dave could be more specific for me, because
Well,
as not being a representative of the Columbia County Health Department, I can share information with Dave shared, but very often it changes.
So my question is, what is Columbia County Department of Health providing for school districts or planning for school districts for COVID testing?
For COVID testing.
Yeah.
So we don't test for COVID here.
No,
So we would call them on the telephone and ask them, listen, we've got somebody who did not pass, let's say, the screening, and we would ask them what they thought we should do. Now, most of the time, it has been to isolate them, send them home to their primary care physician, and the primary care physician will decide if they're to be tested or not.
So the county at this point in time is not using any county resources to provide for testing as needed as issues arise.
I'm sure that if I asked them to test somebody, they would test somebody. I'm sure they would. It's their benefit. But they're just not going to test anybody for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need a reason.
And why would they?
My information is they are not doing negative testing, and they are still trying to get clarification between the State Education Department and the Department of Health, because they are arguing about a comma. Comma. So when you put a comma in a sentence and then you put "and" in it, is it two things together or is it not two things together? Is it either or? So the New York State Education Department has taken a different view than the New York State Health Department, and the Columbia County Health Department follows New York State Health Department. So if there is a concern or if we have an outbreak, I would expect that in the public interest, they would test. Just like they do at any other location.
Okay.
Is there
Is
any other scenarios you want to? The scenarios that have been posted in the plan and on the website and are on the New York State Department of Health website as well as the Columbia County website. Yes.
What if the parent don't want their kid tested?
Well, then the child probably won't come back to school. They will go into isolation, and they will, the way the information I have is that Columbia County will contact them and make house visits for the 14 days, and then make a determination from there. So there are individuals who have preferred to go into isolation and refuse testing, but I'm not aware of the names of those people. So,
Some people normally run higher temperatures. Some children normally run higher temperatures. So I don't understand who's going to be the expert to determine on somebody's child if they should be tested if the kid always has a 99-degree temperature.
it's not going to be the school district. It is going to be the primary care physician.
Okay.
Okay. You good? Yep. Okay, good. Okay, we have the buildings departments. We have John Bluestein.
So, Superintendent asked us to provide you with some information to help you understand the impact of the remote learner's choice, the parent choice. So sometimes it's important as emotions run heavy just to listen to the numbers and what do the numbers tell us. I'd like to just go through the grade levels briefly and tell you what's going on in each grade level. I'll speak to the pre-K through 4.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
If I interrupt, I'm concerned that we can hear you, but I don't think the viewers that are on Twitch can hear you. Can you get them?
John, does that have a mic on it right there?
That has a mic. Just turn and face toward it and speak into it.
Well, this is your meeting. I'm happy to talk to that or to you. Which would you like?
I would prefer that you talk to us.
Maybe they need an attorney to listen to.
I'm going to kind of stay in here and maybe I get
Okay.
the best of both worlds.
There you go.
All right.
Perfect.
John,
Yeah.
I appreciate what you have to say is very important.
Yep. Yep.
Go ahead.
Yes?
I was just saying what he has to say is important, and we all should be able to hear.
I can use my teacher's voice, but I guess. All right. How's that sound?
Good.
Good?
Sounds good.
We can hear you through the PA.
All right. Let me just tell you the numbers so you know where we are at with regards to the requests for remote and what that leaves us in our classrooms. In pre-K, we have 3 teachers. At this time, I show 3 students confirmed remote that are enrolled in school. That leaves us with classes of 15, 16, and 17 in the 3 pre-K classes. But at this point, we're expecting a few more kids to enroll. A couple of parents said they were not going to send their pre-K children, so our numbers dropped a little bit because of that. In kindergarten, we have 18 parents who have opted for remote learning. I have put a teacher in charge of those 18 students. I have a dedicated teacher for those 18 remote children. That leaves the other 4 teachers at 15 students apiece for in-person learning. At first grade, I have 13 remote learners. I have 65 in-person learners. What that means then is each of the teachers has 16 students and 11 to 14 in person. So the other remote students are making up the difference between 11 and 16 or 14 and 16.
So there's not going to be a separate teacher for those kids?
We did not dedicate a teacher in first grade for
Just
13 students.
clarifying.
What we did is we used the term sprinkled or blended the rest of the kids in those classes.
And
So
how many
again,
teachers? How many teachers there?
I have 5 teachers. I will add that I added a section of first grade to drive the numbers down.
Okay.
So I actually have two teachers that were our intervention specialists or remedial teachers that I've asked to come out of that role and go into classrooms to help drive the numbers down.
You have 65 total students
In person.
plus 13, so you've got 78 total students.
That's correct.
You've got five total teachers.
That's right. So you do a quick math.
So,
I mean, again, that's an average of 16, right?
seems like you've got enough teachers to do what you did in kindergarten. No?
I could dedicate one teacher to drive the class, the in-person up a little bit in the other sections, but I could do that. I have 13 children. It'd be a little less than what the teachers would be having, but it could work. So to answer your question, I could have a dedicated teacher in first grade just like I did in K. But I have not had any volunteers. I had a volunteer for kindergarten. Okay, grade 2. I have 11 remote students. I have 54 in-person students. Average classes are 16, with 12 to 15 in person as a spread.
How many teachers?
I have 4 teachers at grade 2. 4. In grade 3, I have 14 remote learners. I have 55 in person. So that averages somewhere between 17 and 18 per class, with 13 to 15 in person, no higher than 15 in any other class.
And teachers, how many?
I have 4. In grade 4, I have 26 remote learners, with 61 in-person learners, for an average of 17 per class, with the in-person learners ranging from 10 to 14.
And
So
teachers?
basically,
4 teachers?
I added another teacher there, so there are 6 teachers at grade 4.
Okay.
So in order to drive the numbers down, we've done 2 things. We've taken people out of their roles as remedial and put them in classrooms, 3 of them, 1 at 4th grade, 1 at 1st grade, actually 2 at 1st grade, 2 at 1st grade, 1 at 4th grade at this point. What we heard was the concern about keeping the numbers down and more manageable. I feel that we've tried very hard to respond to that. No one's class is going to be more than 15, with some as low as 10. The only classes that are going to be bigger than 15 are going to be the pre-K classes, which by regulation can go to 18 with an 8. Now, what I mean by no one's classes is any larger, I mean in person, in front of the teachers. You have to add back in the number of kids that are going to be remote. As we've heard tonight, right now our expectation is that the teacher will teach, will just take a typical class, 12 students in front of them, and 4 students on the screen. Just like as an example. And we heard that that's going to be challenging, and we recognize that that's going to be challenging. May I add one more fact? When we talked about our hybrid plan, which was recommended by the THFA tonight, my understanding of the hybrid plan is we would have half the students here in person. Okay? Half the students here in person on 2 days. The other half would come on 2 other days, possibly with a day in between Wednesday, where everyone does remote. My question is, the kids that are sitting home on the 2 days the kids are here in person, what are they doing? Are they not joining us remotely?
Because if not, those kids aren't going to school 5 days a week. They're not having education 5 days a week. They're having education 3 days a week. So let's just be clear. Unless there's another hybrid idea out there that I don't know of, the kids who are at home were expected to join their in-person peers when they were home, using the computer, using the laptop. So the very problem that's been brought up tonight, that it's very hard to teach kids in front of me and teach them on the screen, is now going to be not the small numbers that I described to you per teacher, but half the class. So if I have a class of 16, 8 are going to be in front of me, 8 are going to be on the screen. At least for those, and that's going to happen 4 days a week. 2 for this group, Monday, Tuesday, 2 for the group, Thursday, Friday. I'm not sure how the hybrid, unless I'm wrong in my understanding, makes it any easier for them to teach kids in front of them as well as on the screen. What I have heard some of you say, could we devote another teacher per grade level to do a solely remote section? If we do that, I'm hearing the teachers say that that's a positive. However, I'm concerned about a teacher with 26 children in a remote section in 4th grade. Everything we know about remote learning is that it's best if you can keep the groups that you're teaching smaller. I believe what we did addressed that the remote learners are a small group, spread out over the teachers, and the only dedicated section I have right now is kindergarten, and honestly, my advice to that kindergarten teacher is to take those 18 kids, divide them into 2 or 3 groups. Don't try to teach all 18 at one time. And have smaller sessions throughout the day with smaller groups. I just want to point out that the administration, working with the teachers, have done their level best to drive the numbers down and make them manageable, both in terms of who's in front of us and who they're working with simultaneously on the screen. I would be happy and interested if somebody directs us or tells us, look into a dedicated teacher at each grade level or 2. But I'm just telling you, the next concern is going to be, I don't want to do that assignment. I had a volunteer in kindergarten. That's why it worked. If you want me to do it in 1st through 4th, who's going to step up and do that?
Question?
Yes.
You asked a question about how hybrid would be done. The example you gave was half the kids to be home, half the kids to be here. And I don't know the answer to this question either, but the other school districts in the county have a hybrid scenario. Do we know how they are handling it?
Mr. Bender, with all due respect to the districts in our area, they are all over the place on what they're doing. I do not know, honestly, if some districts have even made a decision yet definitively of what they're doing. I know a neighboring district just changed their plan to phase in more slowly kids coming back to the campus. So I honestly wouldn't rely on what they're doing to drive what we're doing.
I'm not saying we should rely on it, but to understand what they're doing, just understand what the options are.
Okay?
I don't know the right answer either.
Yeah.
So according to the attendance regulations that we have, that have not been altered or waived, those school districts are going to have a difficult time meeting the requirements of attendance as they are in regulation.
I have 2 questions. Are we done? Are you
Yeah.
You mentioned before about aides in the classroom. Which of these grades have an aide in the classroom, and what is their role? And my other question is, having done remote teletherapy with younger kids, you need an adult in the room with them. you know, you can't just plop you know, a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old in front of a computer all day. So do the parents understand when they've selected remote learning that the kids have to have some supervision for their school day?
Yes, I think that we've had several discussions with these parents. I think the principals have stressed it and have brought that concern up. That is a huge problem.
Oh, yeah.
And in my personal opinion, I do not think that parents understand the commitment that they are making. So there are some flaws in that, and I think that only will go to broadening the gap, the equity gap, and the individuals not getting the education that they deserve.
So Terry, to answer the first question, the aides, 99% of the aides, with the exception of the pre-K aides, are dedicated to children who have special needs.
Okay.
They're not general classroom aides.
Okay.
Could they assist, though, with children on remote? In fact, they're going to have to, because as Stella will report a little bit later, a fair number of our special ed population have chosen remote learning. So those aides are going to have to use that technology to support those children at home. But again, their focus primarily in the classroom is the children they've been assigned to, whether it's a shared aid responsibility or a one-to-one. Yes, they can help the classroom teacher, of course, they're in the room and they do general things. But their focus has to be those children. And now, if a child is home with an IEP or a 504 plan and has an aid, they're really going to have to keep an eye on that child on that screen and assist them as they do their work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
You have the pleasure of being first up, so getting most of the questions.
I'm good with it.
Good. Do you know what the status is of either having additional cameras in the classroom for remote learners to participate, or microphones?
Okay, here's what I do know. That the teachers have been given the opportunity, and they will be given a new laptop. I understand it has a superior camera and a superior microphone.
Okay.
We were going to use primarily those devices for our remote learners. So the teacher would have that device in their room and be able to communicate with the remote learners via that device. The school made a decision not to try to purchase additional cameras, more sophisticated equipment at this time.
Thank you.
Mr. Gulaseng.
Yes.
We kind of already did online learning for the last 3-4 months of the year. What was the average attendance on the classes? I know a couple, one for a fact, my grandson, that his was about 20% attended. And I know other people that they were about 20%.
It clearly varied, and I would say to you that in most cases the attendance was disappointing, the participation was disappointing on the students' end. There were kids that were absolute no-shows, and then there were students that were very diligent and were on top of it and did pretty well with that. But I'd have to say overall, I don't think anybody would say that it was a successful effort in terms of the numbers of kids who participated, the quality of work that they gave us. It was tough. It was tough sledding. These are different times. We have time to prepare better. We learned a lot from our first remote experience. What I hear the teachers saying, and I'm not disagreeing, what makes this different is that they're being asked to teach kids in front of them while also addressing the needs of kids remotely. That is a challenge. I'm not trying to make light of that. That is different for them. They've not done that before, not been asked to. The only folks that have done that are what we might call our distance learning teachers. A little bit different format, but they have kids in front of them. This is at the high school level. They have kids in front of them, but they also have children that are in other classrooms in other school districts who they instruct. So there is a precedent for it, but that's not the experience of 99% of our teachers. They haven't been asked to do this before. So I understand their concern.
the thing is it's always been emphasized of the amount of time of education time. So if these kids are only attending class 20% of the time, I think the word retention comes in. And are the parents that are gonna have these kids be online are aware that their kid could be retained to stay in that grade again?
We're having discussions with parents. We're going to come up with a list of expectations for them and their remote learners. One of those things has to be attendance and engagement. If they don't do it right, if those parents either just don't have the capacity to make it happen for their child, or they have a reluctant child who's just obstinate and who's not cooperating with them, we may have to say to them after the first quarter, even if we offer an option, we don't know that yet, but that's off the table now. You've shown us, you've demonstrated to us that remote learning for your child just isn't working. So we may have to reevaluate that parent choice after the first 10 weeks. Again, depending on where we are with even offering it a second quarter, because officially so far we haven't said we're extending that option beyond quarter one.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So it sounds like you've got at least some teachers that have experience with this already, the distance learning teachers that have done this before. We've got students from Canada and students remotely. Are the other teachers going to have an opportunity to gain from their experience through cross-training or discussion? Here's what worked, here's what didn't work.
Yeah. So again, I only bring that up to explain that there have been situations where teachers have taught remotely at the same time. They're in a lab setting, they have specialized cameras and other devices available in a DL lab setting that these teachers now will not have. So to compare it, it's a little apples to oranges in regards to what's available to them and the environment that is available to them. But I mean, could those remote or DL teachers offer some suggestions? Sure. I know that we're planning some professional development around how to do this effectively, teach in person and remote simultaneously. But yes, Mr. Bender, I think if there's teachers that have had some experience with it and a positive, even over those last 3 months that we used it, sure, we'd love to have them step forward and offer suggestions.
Good?
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Welcome.
Next up, James Burmaster.
Good evening. It's certainly a lot of challenges that are facing us right now to try and make the best out of a difficult situation, and that's what everybody's trying to do. And I want to take a break from that for a second. I'm also going to share some of the numbers in the high school, but I want to share with you some other numbers that relate to remote learning and some successes that we've had. We were fortunate enough this summer to run a credit recovery program in grades 7 through 12 with some of our school improvement grant funding to try and address some of the deficiencies that we had. We targeted kids that had incompletes at the end of last year that struggled with remote learning. So what we did is we set up a certain number of teachers for 3-week intensive summer school classes, 2 sessions in a row. We were fortunate enough to have Darby D'Elia work as a coordinator of the program and work really well with the teachers and the students to get them motivated. Through this program, we were able to have 128 credits recovered. 100 of those came from the high school. Out of those 100 credits that came from high school, kids that will not need to repeat the class this coming year, 42 of them were classes that ended in Regents exams. And by getting those done by October, each of those students are now exempt from that Regents exam. And probably the most important number that comes from what we were able to do this summer is that we had 3 seniors that were not able to stand out on our makeshift graduation stage in June that completed their requirements in July and August and are now Taconic Hills graduates. We couldn't have done that without that program, so it was very fortunate to do that. A side effect of this, too, is that when you think of the students that were in this program, these are all kids that struggled with the remote learning concept for that remainder of the year. That's the only reason why they would have failed a class, is because they weren't able to complete what they were supposed to. But through the work of, Darby and our teachers and a lot of support from everybody, these kids reconnected with school.
Was that in person? Or?
It was completely remote. Teachers were teaching from home, students were at home doing it. So it was all remote. Lots of good documentation on it, because when it comes to credit recovery, we need to make sure that we're dotting all the I's and crossing the T's, because any of those things are, eligible to be looked at in an audit. And we've seen in school districts where they don't handle their business that way and haphazardly give those out. And that's not at all what we were intending to do. We wanted to find out what the teachers who taught them during the year thought they needed, and those teachers over the summer addressed that need. So it at least provides a positive to me that for some of the kids that are going to be on remote right now, and if we're forced at some point to go to all remote, we've made some strides. Some of those kids that were tough kids have a new taste for it, and they're going to do a little bit better. We actually had a student who was really planning on dropping out. That he had accumulated very few credits up until this year, over 3 years of school, and he was considering dropping out. But because of the work that he did with the teachers, he ended up gaining 4.5 credits over the summer of different classes that he was so close to, and he kept working with them. Now he actually has an outside chance of graduating this year with his class, and he's planning on coming back. So
did his family opt for remote or in person?
They did not. He's planning on coming in. It's going to be tough for him. This is not an easy schedule to crank out all those classes, but just the fact that he's going to step foot back in the building and give it a try, and he feels like it, and his parents are super happy for him. It's something that I'm really glad is happening. So onto the numbers in remote learning. So we have a little higher numbers of students that opted for remote learning in the high school. And part of that might be just to the age of the students, that they're a little more capable of handling some of these things in home without supervision. We had just over 100 students, which amounts to 25% of our senior high school student population. It's a little heavier in the 10th grade. The 11th grade has more kids coming here. We don't have the ability, the luxury to be able to dedicate remote sections for students in the high school, because students have the ability to choose whatever class they want, and there are so many different pathways to graduation. So the way that we're doing it is we're trying to divide out those kids in the sections to reduce class sizes. We want a schedule that's going to accommodate any of the plans, even if all the students come back and have to socially distance. So our plan in each class, the average class size is anywhere, especially in the core classes, from about 15 to 19 students. If you were to take 25% off of that, you're looking at 12 to 15 students per class, which makes it a little bit more manageable. I'm talking mainly about the core classes, because right now that's the focus of our scheduling, to try and create a schedule for each student that gets them their core classes of math, science, social studies, and English, and their language class. Courses that are needed for graduation and result in an exam that they must take at this time. So after we're all set with that and we're comfortable with that, and we're very close to that, then we will put the students in as many electives as we can. And that will affect some of the elective classes. Some of the students won't be able to get all the electives that they want. And it's going to be a job for our counselors when they get back to work with students to find classes that even if they don't get the number one choice, they can get some things that are going to help them get some elective credit for graduation and do something that's going to make their time here worthwhile, rather than having to sit through long study halls, which we absolutely don't want. I'll also point out about this whole process of the remote learning and bringing students back. I know you've heard a lot from some of the teachers of the concerns that they have, and they have valid concerns. This is what they're feeling right now, but it's not negativity that I'm getting from the teachers like that all the time. I want to tell I have had more conversations, more emails, more Zoom meetings with teachers this summer than I have in the last 5 summers combined. They're more active, they're more involved, and I've gotten some real good solutions to some of the problems. They want answers, and we don't have all the answers. We're gonna be looking for answers. We're gonna be planning right up until 7:35 on September 10th, and then we're gonna start adapting to what happens. So I'm very pleased at what the teachers have been able to offer in terms of helping come up with some of the solutions to the problems that we're gonna run into during this time. Thanks. Questions?
Mary?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you mentioned you had 100 kids that are remote learning, that's 25% of the population. Do you know how many of the 100 are returning students versus new students? And the reason why I ask is, it seems to me if they're returning students, you may have more sense of the kid and their ability to effectively learn remotely or not. And if you had a focus on that, you know where the problems are going to be and maybe head them off at the pass, so to speak, early on. So do you have a sense of the kids that are participating? Do you think it's a good set if you're going to choose them?
I do. It's the students that we haven't had a lot of transfers so far yet into the school. We have some pending students coming in that would be new students to us. I only know of one student who's a transfer into the school who is opting for remote at this time, out of the 100+ students. So every one of these that, other than this one student that are remote learning in the high school are students that we know of. And you look at some of the names and you know that they've got great support at home. They're going to do well. They succeeded last spring. But then you look at some of the others and it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. We're going to have to work with them. And we're going to need to, keep on them and use our social workers, our counselors, our administrators, our teachers, our aides, our TAs, even our board members sometimes. We need people to just reach out to these families and communicate with them and try and get them, more and more involved. It's going to take that whole community effort to do it.
Thank you.
I did want to just add, because I know I said this when we were having the committee meetings, I could appreciate the incredible challenge it is to try to program. Programs that are usually done at the end of June, maybe the latest, the beginning of July. So trying to figure it out and dance around and balance these things at this late date and with the target seeming to keep moving. So
it's a challenge, but you can look at challenges different ways, and you just keep trying to find a solution. And I don't know how we're going to get there, but we're going to get to the solution at some point. So.
yeah, and I also just wanted to articulate. I think everybody, from what I'm hearing, everybody is equally as concerned about students' education and wanting to make sure that, not to use a euphemism, that no child is left behind because they can't get here or whatever the obstacle might be. But at the same time, I think many of us are thinking first and foremost about health and safety, and with that being such a difficult thing to really face, that it's very hard to come up with solutions that make everybody comfortable at an uncomfortable time. So thanks for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Mary D'Amico. Hi, Mary.
Hi. So the 5th through 8th grade has 93 students that are going remote. And when we break it down, what that looks like is in 5th grade, there will be 21 students who are learning remotely with 55 in person. There are 5 sections, so remember 5 through 8, they're now rotating. There are different teachers. It's not just one specific teacher. So there are 5 sections of 5th grade, and we're averaging between 8 and 12 students in person per class. The 6th grade is, there are 4 sections of 6th grade. There are 63 students that are in person. There are 28 that are going to be learning remotely, and that's going to average between
many remote and how many?
28 remote and 63 in person.
63.
And so our range within the 4 classrooms will be between 11 and 17.
11 and 17 in person.
In person, correct.
Depending on the subject.
Depending on the team. Also keep in mind, we knew in advance that the 6th grade was a larger group, and we have already rearranged rooms so that these classrooms now have twice the space.
Like the
So they
dividers,
have
the
double-
dividers
are
open.
now open, they have twice the room, the square footage.
And why can't it be, the numbers be smoothed out so it's not such a large range between
Well-
11 and 17?
Well, Craig, so what we do is we loop, which means that the same teacher goes with those students from 5th to 6th grade, and we have teams. So within those 3 teams, we do not want to disrupt the relationships that these teachers have already established with these students and parents. So some classes actually have more students that are learning remotely this year than others. So there is going to be a slight disparity. We have tried to kind of negate that by looking at the incoming 5th grade and adjusting it, but there is going to be some difference. We also have students we also have a special education group. We try to keep those numbers a little smaller. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, grade 7 is actually our larger group. So that's the largest. We have 22 students that are learning remotely, and we have 77 that will be here in person. We have 5 sections. We do have one larger group, and that's based on different interests. Remember, now we're moving into the high school schedule, so 7th and 8th is more of the junior high. There's a little more latitude for students. So there may be a section that is as large as 21. We're still looking at it, but that group is assigned to a double room. But I don't think we're going to have to go that high. And right now, the smallest group is 9. Again, keeping in mind all of those other factors, such as students with disabilities. And finally, the 8th grade they're going to have 60 students that are in person. There will be 20 that are working remotely. We have 5 sections. We have not completed that schedule yet, but we're averaging about 12 students per section. Are there any questions I can answer?
We only do the teams for 5th and 6th, you said?
We do the looping for 5th and 6th, yes. And the reason that we're doing it is we are trying to transition them slowly into getting used to the changes that occur as you move on and as you transition.
I'm not familiar with the term looping.
So looping
Is it
means-
like houses? I've been in
So no, looping really just means that we're keeping the teacher that you have in 5th grade moves with you to 6th. So in this case, we have 3 teams of 3 teachers. And that same team for both years.
Okay.
And we found it to be very effective.
Yeah, I'm familiar with housing. Houses seems to be the same concept.
Certainly. Okay?
Okay, everybody good? Okay, thank you. We have Sandra's up next. Hi, Sandra.
Hi there.
Well, a few things just to piggyback on what everybody else has said. Our homeschool numbers are up. We usually run in the 60 to 70 homeschool students. Every year we are up to 105, and this isn't early yet, so I do expect that we will have more.
This is homeschool?
Just a refresher, homeschooling is where the parents provide all the education and experience.
So this has nothing to do with those students that are getting remote instruction.
Some
This
of
is-
our students are unenrolling from the formal education experience and are moving to homeschooling.
And that's about 100, you said?
105 right now, that's up today.
Thank you.
Which is up.
Up considerably.
30 to 40.
From the 60 to 70, both 70 range.
What did you say, 30 to 40? It's up to 30 to 40 students from last time?
So, back to summer school, I would like to publicly thank Darby DeLea for working with me on this project. It really was a wonderful experience. We ran it at the elementary level, and in most cases, those students had a one-to-one time period with a teacher, ranging from 20 minutes to 40 minutes on a Zoom call. And we really had an excellent participation rate on that. And if a student dropped, we were able to successfully enter a new student into the program. We also ran the L program. I'd like to publicly thank the Berkshire Italian Foundation. You remember I wrote a grant in June. You accepted it at one of the July board agendas, and we were able to run the ENL program, which cost about $15,000, and it met all the needs of the L-identified students, and we had 100% participation in that program. So all the students that the teachers identified as needing support over the summer received the support they needed. So that was absolutely wonderful. And again, thank you to Darby for also her hard work on getting that happen. We also wrapped up the kindergarten and pre-grant that we had with the Community Foundation of Columbia County. And the teachers worked at kindergarten screening, gave little bags of tools and materials for learning, as well as parent suggestions for home. So that grant is wrapped up. PDP committee met this week, and we are working on planning the staff development days, which will be mostly virtual in nature. And we have all kinds of PD planned, and we're working with the teacher chairs of that to design the schedule so that we put what's most important to happen on September 1st on that date, and then we'll finish out with the 8th and 9th. Starting in March, we began some book studies, and those book studies centered around social-emotional learning, which we felt was very timely given the COVID situation, as well as global awareness now. And that was before the recent concerns that we had in our nation, but it was also very timely as it turned out. And we ran more book studies this summer. 6 book study groups were in session with over 60 participants in those book studies. And the great part about that is it included all of our staff was eligible for that. So it did not matter what you used here at Taconic Hills, you were invited to be part of that book study. The books we looked at were How to Be an Anti-Racist, Paired with Little Warriors Everywhere, Social Emotional Learning, Formative 5 for Social-Emotional Wellness, Cultural Awareness Now, and Restorative Justice. Finally, I know you and Neil have spoken about this, but just a reminder that the Social-Emotional Book Study Group, there were several people interested in working on a mission statement with the board.
Oh, great.
So just a reminder on that, because you said that was coming up.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just a comment, and that is, just did some quick math. I think, Bonnie, you said there was 274, if I remember correctly, students that are not in person, approximately
272, I think.
272.
Yeah.
And it sounds like we've got 30 or 40 students that are in school last year that are now homeschooled.
They could have come from other districts too, in some cases they are. Hawthorne Valley students, for whatever reason, I don't know, are now coming back to Hawthorne Valley. A lot of them are moving to homeschool.
Yeah. So roughly there's 300 kids. Take a lowball homeschooling number, 25 or whatever. There's 300 kids that were in this building last year that are not in this building this year. If we had, so if we have 1,280 kids last year, I think our number was approximately
22%.
Yeah, maybe a little higher, but about that, yeah. So the population is going to be 22, 23, 24% less this year than last year. I don't know if that's a good number or a bad number, but it is a lower number. And just want to point out the number.
Anybody else? Okay. Civil.
And by the way, Hawthorne Valley enrollment is up quite a bit this year. I think the enrollment is up by about 50 students. So there has been an influx of people into the community here because people lower part of the state moving up here, going to kids in school up here. And Hawthorne Valley School increased, I've been told, by about 50 students. So many of these homeschooling kids probably come from here.
Well, our enrollment from Hawthorne Valley in homeschooling has increased.
Okay, so
Hi, good news first.
I think you need to put the microphone
oh, great. That's a good idea.
I see Eileen Olson is in the audience, and I just wanted to officially welcome her to the district office staff. Over the summer, she stepped in while we were really short-staffed to help us out. She was amazing, picked up everything right away, just jumped in and was willing to help in any way. And then I came up with the bright idea to steal her from the elementary, so I'm really sorry about that, Mr. Boulasane. But she has a background in accounting, and it shows that it's just like riding a bike. She hasn't forgotten her touch, and she has been fantastic, and she will have about 8,000 tax bills ready to go out on Monday, August 31st. So we're really happy to have her with us. The bad news, as Dr. Howard reported, we will be receiving that reported 20% reduction to state aid. During budget season, it was discussed that that reduction would only occur to foundation aid. So the number that I had given you during budget season was about just under $1.5 million. Now we're being told that that 20% reduction will be across the board on all statutory aid payments. So that number for us is approaching $2 million this year, reduction in state aid. And the newest information just the other day was that that reduction will be permanent, and we are far more concerned about school years 21, 22, and beyond.
Permanent, like as in until
We'll never
he
see it
changes his
again.
mind?
We'll never see it again.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
Yes. So what we had planned was to absorb that reduction with fund balance this year. We are still in the process of calculating what our additional costs have been due to COVID-19, the additional health precautions that we've had to take, the additional equipment, maintenance products, PPE that we have secured. We've done absolutely everything that we possibly can to ensure that staff have what they need to do their jobs. But certainly this is every school district's rainy day. And as Dr. Howard said, we'll be able to weather this definitely for a year. Other schools are not in the same condition that we were in, or we are in, but it's not going to get any better financially after this time.
Does the lunch, does the free breakfast and lunch, is that separate monies, or is that part of this money?
That is separate money, and it will continue. All students will eat for free.
Thank you.
So, Sybil, could you talk a little bit about the reserve funds that the governor signed the law?
Sure, there has been some flexibility extended with regard to reserve funds, because as you know, most of them are restricted for a particular purpose. But what the governor has said is that if a school district needs to access a reserve fund due to the state aid reductions or COVID-19 costs, then we can access a reserve that had a restricted purpose, but it has to be repaid within 5 years. So essentially, it's a loan. It's not
It's a loan, it's a loan to yourself.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask,
So-
is you're borrowing from your own
Conic
money.
Hills is very lucky in that we are not in the position
Right.
that many school districts, even school districts in the county, are in currently.
We're gonna rob Peter to pay Paul,
From
And then pay ourselves
yourself.
only if we have the money later in the future. So Peter's gonna end up broke 5 years from now, is what I'm saying.
And you can't reallocate that to any other
Not at this
budget
time,
line?
not at this time.
Does it really mean that we're going to save any money?
The only other thing that I can report is that I did establish a FEMA claim for costs for a FEMA claim for costs related to COVID-19, and I had a conference call with that group early last week, and essentially we went through some of the examples of the costs that I was allocating. For example, we have put touchless water faucets in every single bathroom in the facility. And they asked me if that was a permanent improvement. And I said, well, I don't intend to take those faucets out after the pandemic is over. So yes, it is a permanent improvement. So because it's permanent and not temporary, it is not eligible for FEMA reimbursement. I'm not kidding.
So,
So we sort of said yes?
so in discussions
We
with,
should have said yes. We're
in
gonna take them
discussions,
out.
well, they want you to be honest. And there are some school districts who are not being as forthright as we are, in order to try to manipulate the situation. But we fully expect that to change based upon the weather conditions in the Gulf of Mexico this week. So Hurricane Laura has already diverted many resources to that area of the country. So we expect more changes to occur.
I certainly don't have time to watch the weather in Florida right now, but, you know, another one of the costs that we had planned on filing was the cost of meal deliveries through the summer. That was an unfunded mandate that we were very willing and able to bring to our students and families, but it was not something that we budgeted for. And FEMA also said that will be denied as well. That is just a cost of doing business as a result of COVID-19.
So the only hope we
It's like, so
have,
what is it? So what can,
They encouraged me to file a claim with all of these items, and I said, well, why don't you tell me what is eligible?
Right.
And
They
I'll
can
go
tell
from
you?
there, because I don't want to do all this work.
did they tell you?
They said they'd get it to me.
They don't want you to know what.
so the hope right now, and I sent the letter to the board from the governor to our congressional representatives to get some money under the COVID Act. And he made many comparisons and kind of laid out what his plan was. So that federal money, which has not been allocated yet, we hope that at some time will be allocated in order to cut down some of the gap here.
Well, in the pandemic adjustment funds that were supposed to replace the state aid that we knew we were going to lose this year, a portion of that has to be allocated to Buckland County. So we're already losing a big chunk of that money that we were using for job preservation.
Sybil, do you have an idea in terms of those unanticipated costs, the faucets and meal deliveries and PPE, what the outlay has been?
It's still a working document, Dave. I hope to have better information next month.
So, do you have an idea of talking 100,000, $500,000?
I don't like to speculate. I would rather have something.
Okay, so I'll speculate. And I will say it's over 500,000. Now, please note that it is speculation.
in the budget for students and instruction and extracurricular activities or sports, but that we were going to absorb these potential reductions with fund balance this year. That was our plan.
So there's 2 points right there, the 20%. And that's what we said we were going to absorb.
But we always knew it could be more.
Right.
We were told that.
But in addition to the 20%, there's the additional expense of PPE, right, which is new. So you knew the 20% was coming, maybe we didn't know it was 20% across the board. You knew the 20% was coming. But I don't think we had a cost number, whatever the $500,000 ends up being, we didn't have that number either, so. I suggest that when we do know that number, we should reevaluate the rest and decide whether we're going to implement those projects or not.
Well, the quality of
It's already,
education,
yeah, it's already
the
been.
quality of education still needs to be
Exactly.
kept up. And, I mean, if it's, you're talking about something that's, maybe something that's, you know, not absolutely necessary, but your speaker system for your PAC system, that's quality of, you know, for the school. I get what you're saying, I just don't agree with that.
I'm not making a recommendation one way or the other.
I get you. I'm just telling you my point of view.
I'm just saying, maybe we should look at it.
That's fine.
The other question I have is, these restricted reserves, could they be moved permanently to the general reserve with a voter, with public voters?
No, they all have restrictions with regard to, in the event that you don't need the funds anymore, where they can be moved, how they can be moved, whether it's board authorization or voter authorization, they're all different. But generally, they cannot just be transferred to fund balance, no.
Even with voter?
Correct.
So along that lines, I read the governor's cuts to 20%. If you were to use designated reserves, you have to pay that in 5 years at 20% per year. If you use undesignated, you don't have to pay that.
Correct.
I was assuming that. I don't know.
Anybody else? Okay, Stella, you're up. Thanks, Sybil.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. We're back to the numbers. So for special education this year, we have 4 new special education students. 2 of them are families moving from Brooklyn, and 2 are from New Jersey. There's a new minister that moved into Hillsdale, so his students will be coming to Taconic Hills. We have 27 remote learners with IEPs, and we have 12 504 students who are going remote. This is K through 12.
Can you just repeat that? I'm sorry.
I've got 27 all remote students with IEPs, K through 12, and 12 504 students.
Thank you.
No questions from me?
No, I haven't. Sorry. Sorry. The students, the 27 special ed students who are remote, do they have, do any of them have mandated services that would require, like do they have a mandated aid, speech therapy, OT, whatever, that might require home visit?
There would be no home visits. We would do remote learning teletherapy. We have 5 students who have a one-to-one or shared aid. So those aids will be reallocated into classrooms to help those students.
So just as a CYA, if they're mandated to have a one-to-one aid and they've opted for remote instruction, where do we fall in terms of having to provide that, or that we didn't provide it, and are we going to get, at the end of the school year, a request for supplemental services because we didn't get something we were mandated?
The state education department has relaxed some of those rules because of health and safety of the students. But when we're talking about reallocating, they'll be working in the classrooms. Let's say it's a 2nd grader with a shared aid. They'll be in that classroom
are we going to be in a position of having to do and provide something possibly next summer because they did not receive their mandated services in person?
Well, that would be a parental choice for the remote. So when we're talking about these IEPs, it's what's happening here in school. So we can't control, say, what's happening in the home, but whatever we can do on Zoom to engage the student to continue with those goals. I talked about that last month. So everything will be surrounded in terms of supporting students with their goals and their IEPs.
Thanks, Stella. Okay, Nick, you're up next.
Good evening. So last year in July, we started our construction project, and I'm happy to report that we're starting to wrap that up now. You may have noticed that the terrazzo floor in the high school is done. I think that came out great. We did a lot of HVAC upgrades. Obviously, the tennis court is done, and that's getting tons of community use. Upgrades at the parking lot, over at the bus garage were done last summer. So we're starting to wrap all that stuff up, and we're pushing to get it done. We did some water system upgrades. We had a shutdown this week, which was a little stressful because, you know, we're not getting real close to school opening or anything here. But we got that done too, and the water's back up and running. So what we've been doing in the Buildings and Grounds department is making the push to get everything done, get the classrooms cleaned up, working with teachers to set up their classrooms, remove furniture as requested, and move it to storage. And we're just making that final push to get everything ready for the first day.
You know, I have a question. Sure. Is by the time school opens, is all the capital work going to be completed?
It will not. We do still have some of the capital project work that will spill over, possibly into breaks, and potentially into next summer. Specifically the terrazzo in the elementary atrium, as well as outside of the pack here. Yeah, there just wasn't enough time. They still have about 7 weeks worth of work left to do on that work on those floors.
What about the HVAC and the overhead? And where people had talked about ceilings being still open?
Ceilings have been going back at a very good pace this week and last, and most of the ceilings are put back together. There is a small percentage of overhead work that is yet to be complete. We're waiting for parts to come in from the manufacturer for some units that are still under warranty, obviously, because they're brand new. Coils that had small holes in them and things like that. So we'll schedule that work for after hours if it spills into the school year, and we'll make sure that everything gets cleaned up and put back together so that we're ready for the next day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, one of the biggest concerns that I heard through some of these letters was the ability to keep the school sanitized. So, do you have an active list of those concerns and addressing those concerns in terms of making sure that sanitation is done and maintaining order to the environment?
I've seen some of the concerns, heard some of the concerns, and basically what I can say speaking to that specifically is that we're going to follow all of the CDC and Department of Health recommendations. We're going to use the required checklists in order to make sure that everything is taken care of in the frequency that it should, whether it's a high-touch surface or just something as simple as spot checking restrooms every couple of hours and doing the sanitization of the frequently touched surfaces. So we do have a game plan in place for that, and if anybody has a specific concern that they'd like to take to me directly, then I'm always happy to answer their questions. Sometimes concerns are shared with other people that don't get back to me directly, but anything that's come my way, I've done my best to answer at this time.
So, when some programs, when some schools have put together a program where they're doing soccer, and they're dedicated Wednesday, and I know some businesses that are doing this also, for what they call peak cleaning, are we going to be able to somehow provide services like that throughout the course of the week, which I'm assuming can't be done while the building is occupied?
Sure. So I think deep cleaning is a feel-good term that people throw around. Really what we're looking to do is clean things and then sanitize them. And sanitizing is the act of killing the germs and the viruses. And we're going to make it our goal to sanitize the surfaces that need to be sanitized, not just every night, but throughout the course of the day. So in some of these districts where they're using Wednesday as a deep cleaning, I don't some other things. But those items should be done every day anyways. They should be done every night anyways. So if you need Wednesday to catch up, in my opinion, you're scheduling something wrong anyway.
At the last meeting, I was participating remotely, and I really couldn't hear everything. I know you talked about some fogging device that you came up with. Is that going to be, I think you were talking about it for buses, but is that going to be used in the building also?
It will be used on buses as well in the as in the building. So we've gone through a lot of trouble to try to procure the equipment that's going to make it more efficient for us to disinfect large areas such as this in a short period of time. Those fogging machines allow us to do that. And we've also had to track down the disinfectants that are approved to be used in those machines, because some folks don't want their disinfectants used in that manner. They just don't approve of it. So then it takes away their COVID kill claim under the EPA list and certification and all that stuff. So we use the right chemical with the right equipment, and yeah, they're great tools for us to be able to get a lot done in a short period of time.
So one of my concerns, and last month, same concern, I have concern that you only have 2 cleaners that's going to take care of this whole school. I understand that you're going to pull people from maintenance. Again, to me, that's not enough people. Do you need more employees? Do we need to hire a service to come in and that's their only goal is to sanitize? I mean, I'm very uncomfortable with there only being 2 cleaners here during the day.
Okay.
Me, myself.
Sure, and I understand that concern. Those 2 cleaners that are here during the day, and we also have a part-time individual that's here for 4 hours during the day. So we have 2.5 full-time equivalents, we'll call it, during the school day. They're going to be going around and taking care of those high-touch areas, and I do think that we have some of those trade-offs that I talked about. The 2 cleaners that work in the cafeterias, they're not going to have as much of a workload in that cafeteria anymore because the students are going to be eating in their classrooms. And we're going to have the garbage pails and things like that set out in the corridors and staged in such a way that, food garbage and things like that can be brought out. And I see that we're going to have a lot of time savings there. Until we really get into it and get deep into it, and that's one of the reasons why I want to use my maintenance staff and my laborers during the day to figure out how long this is all going to take. Until we do it, I don't want to hire people that we may not need down the road or that we don't need at all. So I want to be responsible, and if I ask for help, I want to make sure that I really need that help. And I won't know that until we get into this and I say, wow, I've used my laborer or 2 of my laborers for 5 days this week, and we're starting to get really behind on the lawn. Then I'm going to know that we have an issue. But if we're keeping up okay, then I don't feel comfortable asking the district for additional resources that I may not need.
I'm sorry I'm going to put you on the spot, Nick.
Sure.
How many call-ins did you have for tonight?
I had 3 people call in for this evening.
So you have no cleaners tonight, correct?
I did not. I reassigned a maintenance person to help with the floor stripping this evening, and it also happened the other night. So yes, we do have.
That's a problem.
I agree 100%. That's a night shift situation. If I had 2 cleaners calling during the day on me, I'd be in trouble. I'd be grabbing my maintenance people.
That's
I'd be
a
grabbing my
problem.
laborers.
For me personally, that's a problem.
Do they have the option of overtime, Nick?
We do have the option of overtime.
And how many take advantage of that?
We have 2 or 3 people in the department that really take advantage of
That's
it.
it?
That's it.
Are they the younger, the less seniority people?
For the most part, I had one of the cleaners that's been here for 25 plus years put in quite a bit of overtime, but the rest of them that put in overtime have been here less than 5 years.
So to Bonnie's point,
I feel like, you said that the B&G won't be in the cafeteria as much, so the kids aren't going to be in there, but I feel like it's going to be more that needs to be cleaned, because clearly we've all seen the floors in the elementary cafeteria when the kids are done in there. They're going to do the same thing in the classroom, right?
That's a good point.
I mean, I feel like it's going to be, are the teachers going to have to clean up this mess that the kids have all over the floor? I mean, how does that look for the classroom?
That's a very good question, and I think we have to figure that out. And I would like to do that. Again, I have staff on hand, so I know that, Bonnie, you make reference to the 2 cleaners, but I actually have 6 to 8 people working during the day. So we will cover those things, and we will figure out how long it's going to take and what needs to be done. And if there's an elementary classroom that after lunch it's just an absolute disaster, we're going to come and clean it. And we're going to devote those resources to that room. And we're gonna keep track of what we need to do and how much we pull from those other areas. And if at the end of the day, we get 6 months into this and we don't have any relief from a vaccine or something like that, then we're going to have to potentially look at additional staffing. But I think it's, you know, the responsible thing for me to do, to try to do it with what I have first.
Yeah, I don't agree.
What about the water, I'm sorry, what about water fountains in the refill stations? Are they gonna be used?
Yes, we have to have, per state education department code, 1 fountain per 100 students. So the refill stations are really the best option, and we have 3 or 4 of those throughout the building right now. But we still all have to have some water fountains that are open and available for use. And those are going to be one of those frequently touched surfaces that we've identified already. And it's going to have a checklist and a cleaning time and a frequency that it needs to be done.
Hopefully that frequency is very often.
I can tell you it's not going to be in between students, but it's going to be,
Right.
you know,
Okay.
not just once during the day.
I hear what you're saying. I'm surprised because I know in public places, they've been closing water fountains off.
And unless the state education department gives us some type of relief for that particular regulation that they have, and they may, but I haven't seen anything yet, then we're going to do our best to adhere to it.
So you say that the responsible thing to do is to get additional staff when you need it. I think it's the opposite. I think the responsible thing to do is overstaff in this area, even if it's on some kind of contract basis where they're not maybe school employees, some service perhaps, or I don't know how else to do it. And then reduce staff and you realize you don't need them, given the severity of the potential situation.
Well, of course, if the board thinks it's a prudent thing to do, we're never going to, we can always look at contracted staffing to fill in if people aren't coming to work.
I mean, if I listen to the concerns that have been going on through the Teachers Association and letters that we've been getting, this seems to be like the #1 issue is hygiene. And let's not wait, when after we're a week in, we realize, oh, we don't have enough, but a week might be too late. It's going overboard in this area. Or you drop and pull back if we've gone overboard.
For once, Craig, we agree on something like that. Miracles do happen.
Well, I don't want to go out and hire a cleaner that I have to lay off in a year. I don't have a problem signing a year contract with a contract company, and if we have to let them go after a year.
You don't have to sign a contract for a year. You can hire an outside service to come in for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month.
Sure.
And then say, we don't need you anymore. You don't have to hire an employee. I mean, there's a lot of labor.
We can obviously look into all the possibilities. It's something that, thought about a little bit, but I thought that we would prefer to try to use the employees that we have on hand. But I can do some homework on this.
I just wanted to support the same concept. And my concern would be, like with everything now when it comes to health and safety and PPE and cleaning equipment and materials, there seems to be a shortage. So I would opt to finding out what resources, outside resources are available one of the things is it's got to be a company that's reasonably within our area.
And they come to work.
And get them in the queue before other people have the same notion of, oh my God, we can't keep up with all this, and we need outside people, and now we're not sure what this.
I will do some homework.
Like the only thing I can think of is like certified. I don't know what it is.
There's a few different companies out there that we can contact.
Have you ever done anything like that before? Or had the need for that before? To contract out with a company for?
The only thing that we've ever done as far as contracting out to another company, we contracted out to Aramark for services at one time, but it wasn't for the labor. It was for the management aspect, and I would highly recommend against that.
It was terrible.
Even though I'm advocating for this, I would tell you my personal experience having hired in school districts outside contractors you don't have the same commitment, level of control, and it's hit or miss. So it could be very good, or it could be disastrous. What I do know is there are companies that do the remediation when there are fires and things like that, and they're geared up to come in, and they could clean a building like this overnight. Literally from stem to stern. I've seen it when there's a fire situation. So getting the right service might be the quote deep cleaning if we fall behind.
Sure. Thanks.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Rick, it's your turn.
Good evening. I'll stand over this way a little more, maybe it's safer.
I'm going to ask you questions wherever you stand.
Pick your best shot, that's all. So we finally were able to start on our bus routes last Tuesday after we reached the deadline for the remote learners to sign up. So we've been working on both our general ed routes and our special education out-of-district routes. We're almost done with the special ed routes. We are held up, believe it or not, because we have a couple of school districts or special ed education schools that have not yet decided how they're going to operate their program. The other schools that are out of district are running a gamut of some kind of hybrid or all in. The general ed routes, I'm happy to announce that as of this afternoon, all 30 in-district routes are done tentatively. I cannot finalize them yet either because we have some parents who have decided last minute to register to send their kids here to this district. We've imposed kind of an in-house deadline for tomorrow night for that to happen, and then so I can finalize those routes and get the information out to parents. We hope to do that by the middle of next week. The numbers of students on the buses range anywhere from 14 to 26, depending on where the bus is traveling and where the students are.
What's the full capacity? If the bus is full, how many kids can you fit on a bus?
66 to 72.
But that's both seats are occupied.
Right. That's if you put 3 people in each seat.
Right.
Yes.
So one person per.
1/3 full capacity.
How many chairs are there?
I mean, it's technically 1/3 of capacity, okay? We very seldom get 72 kids in a 72 passenger bus because our kids don't fit 3 in a seat, okay?
I know
Yes.
I'm not sure I could fit 2 in.
You and I could share a seat.
I need like a double.
So we're making good progress. It's the latest we've ever been working on this yet, but I mean, we do have extenuating circumstances. So we're happy to be at where we're at right now. You do have on the agenda tonight those 3 additional bus routes that we have, are going to hopefully contract with our contractor. We have also supplied drivers to do 3 runs ourselves. So we went from 24 in-district runs to 30 in-district runs. You also have on the agenda tonight the approval of the shared services agreement with for Tech Valley High School, where we share that service with Hudson and Germantown. If each district were to do that run alone, would probably cost us $90,000 to $100,000 per year per school. When we do it with 3 of us, we pay much less than that. We are operating that service this year, and we're glad that we can make it work. We will also have another shared services agreement, but the information for it came in to me this morning. There was not enough time to get it on the board agenda. So with a head nod, hopefully from the board, we can go ahead and do a shared services agreement as we did last year for the heavy equipment return run from Cairo Durham, and that's a combination of Germantown and Hudson as well. And we bring you that shared service agreement in September to be ratified,
They're still doing the program in Cairo, huh? I thought they were moving it.
I think that they're
was some different changes based upon the number of kids. And of course, the idea of how do you teach that remotely, how do you do it in person and safely. There were some concerns, but if the board is good with this, I would like to bring it at the next meeting, and it'll be effective retroactively so that we can start on time with these students in the program.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so we've got the head nod, Greg?
That's a head nod.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Are
Any
you guys
questions?
got questions? Correct.
Thank you.
Thanks. And Pam's not here. So there's no old business at this time, so we're going to start going through. Oh, Mr. Dodds, I'm sorry.
You were doing good.
John, do you have something tonight, Mr. Dodds? I'm sorry. Usually he says nothing to report. What do you have, Mr. Dodds? I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, that's probably what I'll say again. Everybody else said it all already. Teachers have new laptops. We've got 4 new programs, web-based programs for teachers to use. That's about all we got. We're just getting ready for school. We're getting ready for any circumstance that arises. You talked about buying stuff. You can put an order in, but you're not going to see it until there's a lot of schools up around Albany that want, well, they put a consortium together and want to buy 10,000 Chromebooks. They're not going to see them until November. So they don't know what they're going to do between now and then.
Oh, wow.
Another thing that's happening is we went to Zoom rather than Google Meets. Google Meets is, their free part is going to end September 1st. They haven't, it's going to be incorporated into Google Enterprise. You have to buy that. Due to Ed Law 2D and whatnot, things are not moving along fast enough. Again, schools that are using that are not going to be able to use it between September and whenever they actually can purchase it and use it. So we're fortunate in that respect.
What kind of programs did you procure?
Seesaw for the pre-K to 4th grade. They asked for it, so we worked hard on getting it, and that's it, Law 2D compliant. The other one was active classroom for the social studies department, and that's going to be covering grades 5 through 12. Ed Puzzle, which is the teachers can use that to make projects using YouTube videos or their own videos and be able for the kids to show that. The other one just left my brain.
The Khan Academy with NWA Master.
Yes, and there's Clever that's involved in that, which will help on my end once it's up and working, taking student database information and putting it into all the other programs that are Ed Law 2D compliant, like Seesaw, Khan Academy. There's a long list.
John, could you talk a little bit about the number of Zoom licenses we've purchased in the level?
We purchased 150 Zoom licenses. The nice thing about Zoom is they have breakout rooms, they can record, they're lower bandwidth, which are all better things that are not offered by WebEx or Google Meets.
That's 150 host licenses.
Correct, which is enough for every teacher and administrator.
John, do you know, are there any students that have any particular tech needs? I heard through the Facebook grapevine that the Berkshire Taconic Foundation has some extra monies that they were looking to maybe support some families or for some students with. Don't quote me on this, but it, just to think about that in the back of your head.
So I can tell you
anything that I...
Oh, go ahead, John.
Again, anything that I order now It's going to be in high demand, it's going to be hard to get. Webcams, we purchased 10 or 12 of them back in June. They came in, you can't get that now. Okay?
So I've been meeting with the Board of Supervisors Broadband Committee, and we had GTEL and I want to say Spectrum on the last call. So we do have a list of students that have challenges, and the challenges range from, well, their parents never paid a bill, to their parents choosing not to have internet. And so we're trying to work through that group of individuals that if they did choose remote, or if we went remote, they would have some support. So I'm waiting for the next meeting in which Consolidated Communications will be in on, and what did I say, Spectrum? And Spectrum will be in on. Mid-Hudson and GT were on the last meeting, which is Germantown Telephone, which we planned for a connection to school to have some redundancy, because there is times when the internet goes down, and we would like to have a backup plan, and so we're preparing for that as well. Oh, no. Consolidated. But they are starting to leak into each other's territories. So the gentleman's agreement that they used to have seems to be falling apart a little bit, and through the Board of Supervisors, we're putting some more pressure on them to help us out.
So for those families that can't afford the Wi-Fi, are we going to, augment
John,
it?
can you talk about that?
We are providing, we've got 15 hotspots out there now. Some of those families are being covered. I'm watching the data usage to make sure that it's only for schoolwork.
I'm not tech savvy, so with a hotspot, you mean they have to go someplace to
No, actually, it's a little thing. Instead of being a phone, it's basically the same thing as a phone because it's a phone number. And it sits in their house and picks up the same signal through Verizon or AT&T. And then they use that as the hotspot to connect their laptop to it.
Like a MiFi? The same thing as a...
Similar idea.
Yeah.
Tom, were you involved in the project for the sound system here?
Mr. Smith is more into that than I am.
Because one of the things I would encourage if we're looking at sound system, particularly now that we've had to go to these meetings in here. And I thank you, by the way. I see what you plan to make it happen. I'm assuming this will be possible.
The two of us,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Smith
Mark.
and I.
Is it possible when we're looking at it to get those integrated microphones with on each table, there's a mic, you push a button and you can speak, and that way that every board member would be mic'd, and we wouldn't have this.
You're talking about a Polycom system.
I'm not sure if it's Polycom, who makes them, but
that's the original ones. That's what they came out with. The DL room has those type microphones.
just throwing it out there, plans are being developed for this space, because it certainly could be used for these large meetings, and I have a feeling, at least for the next 6 months or so, this is how we're going to be meeting.
This isn't going to be forever, though.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, it's not going to be forever.
For the students that are choosing to have at-home school, I'm assuming that there's a requirement that they have to have internet. So it can't be a family choosing not to have internet and stay at home.
That's a question I've asked for the past 3 months and do not have an answer.
Seriously? Seriously? People would choose remote when they don't have access to the internet?
That's correct.
Okay.
But you're saying with that hotspot thing, they would have access.
They have access.
But you have to be careful too, because Taconic Hills School District is a very large geographic area, and when you take in the Taconic Mountains with all the iron ore in there, Mr. Bebrock will tell you the radios on the buses don't work. Well, there are places in the district where you do not have Wi-Fi because the sound is absorbed. You need to have a wire.
There's major problems. Our friend Todd, he's a wonderful resource, by the way, because he was in Columbia Connect from, he's been working on this for over 5 years.
Todd's reached out to us. We've communicated with him.
Excuse me?
Todd has reached out to us.
Okay.
We've communicated with him.
He's wonderful. He's a good source.
He's on the technical side, but we're trying to get wires strung.
Okay.
I mean, it seems to me we ought to have as part of this at-home policy, that you can't refuse internet in your house. And if you refuse internet, then you got to come to school.
It has not happened to my knowledge so far, but I do know of individuals that choose not to have it for one reason or another. But we haven't technically come across that situation yet.
Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay, we got old business, none at this time, new business. Of course, I got a lot of reading to do. All right. We have A, approval of Stella Ritter, John Goulasane Jr., James Burmaster, Sandra Gardner, Mary D'Amico, and Neil Howard Jr. as lead evaluators of teachers effective August 26, 2020. Whereas the Board of Education has been provided evidence that Stella Ritter, Director of Pupil Personal Services, John Goulasane, Elementary School Principal, Mary D'Amico, Intermediate School Principal, James Burmaster, High School Principal, Sandra Gardner, Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, and Neil Howard Jr., Superintendent of Schools, have completed training which meets the requirements of that and the Taconic Hill Central School District Annual Professional Performance Review Plan for recertification as a lead evaluator of teachers. Therefore, it be it resolved that the Board of Education recommends Stella Ritter, Mary D'Amico, John Goulasane, James Burmaster, Sandra Gardner, and Neil Howard to be recertified as lead evaluation of teachers. Can I have a motion, please? Ron, second. Heidi, any questions? All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right. B, be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the adoption or integration of the Fontes and Pinella classroom as a cohesive multi-text approach to literacy instruction for all students in pre-kindergarten. Can I have a motion, please? Craig, second. Ron, any questions on that?
Yeah, the only question I have is, did we already purchase the materials?
No.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay, but this would be the precursor to the K through 4, I think we already have.
Okay. All in favor?
How much does that cost?
About $6,000, Sandra, $6,000 to $9,000.
9,000 with the third class.
Yes.
Okay, let's do this again. All in favor? Just because you asked the question. All right. C, approval of the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program and lease agreements between Taconic Hill Central School District and Columbia Opportunities for the 2020-2021 school year. Can I have a motion, please? Joe, second. Terry, any questions?
What is this?
Neil?
Universal pre-K, this is Head Start.
All in favor? Okay. We have D, approval of the inter-municipal agreement with Columbia County and the Columbia County Sheriffs for the placement of one school resource deputy in the Taconic Hill Central School District effective September 1st, 2020 to June 25th, 2021 in the amount of $40,000. Motion, please. Terry?
Yes, I have a question.
Second? Dave? Okay, Terry?
Do we have a new person now from the?
They are going through interviews. They have recommended a person to us, but I do not believe it has been finalized yet.
And the 40,000, that goes for half their salary.
That's correct.
And that's our only obligation.
If we want overtime, then we have to ask for that and we pay for that as well.
There's no
So-
ancillary cost besides the salary.
No, that covers everything.
Is this office armed?
All offices are on.
Do they have special training in just some kind of incident where someone comes to the school with guns?
You mean active shooter training?
Yes.
Yes.
You know, with the change, we used to have single point of entry, now we have all these multiple points of entry because of the COVID. You know, we still have to be cognizant of our previous mission and goals, and to, you know, be very aware of that potential
We
situation.
do, and it is a concern.
Too.
But once the kids are in the school, it becomes a single point during the day.
Pretty much. We're shutting down the entrances significantly, but then at the end of the day, they're going to be opened back up again.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Good, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, we have the approval of the agreement with the Mental Health Association of Columbia Green Counties Incorporated for school-based preventative services to at-risk children for the 2020-2021 school year. Can I have a motion? Joe, second. Terry, any questions? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Approval of the shared services agreement between Taconic Hills, Hudson, and Germantown school districts for the purpose of providing bus transportation to students of all three districts attending Tech Valley High School in Albany for the 2020-2021 school year. Transportation services will be provided by Taconic Hills. A motion, please. Dave, second. Ron, any questions? All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right. We have G, approval of the transportation contract by and between the Taconic Hills Central School District and Michael S. Johnston, contractor, dated August 27, 2020, which includes a one-year term and an addition of 3 additional bus runs to accommodate social distancing needs during COVID-19. Motion, please. Terry, second. Second. Dave, questions?
Yeah.
Yep.
I just want to make sure, so if halfway through the year, we don't need this service anymore. Are we kind of reach some agreement as to?
Yes, we did. So I believe it's 10 days written notice, and we can discontinue the service.
All in favor?
And that's-
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's 3 of the additional 6 routes, correct?
Sorry?
These are 3 of those additional 6 routes that you
Yes.
just had?
Yes.
All in favor? Thank you. I guess I should. H, approval of the college course and the AP exam fee reimbursement program for the 2020-2021 school year. Can I have a motion, please? Ron, second. Dave, any questions?
Yeah, it may have been in the attachment, but I don't remember just, how much is the fees?
For what?
The AP fees, they range, I think, right?
Well, it depends. Oh, Sybil, do you want to?
Sure. The AP exam fees are approximately $85 for students, but some students qualify for a fee reduction, so they pay a little bit less.
Oh, okay.
And then
I wasn't sure if it was a flat rate for the whole
No, and then the
school.
college courses range by credit hour.
Okay.
Good, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Be resolved, the Board of Education approves the creation of a language proficiency team for the 2020-2021 fiscal year to determine student second language acquisition needs and make assessment recommendations. Such team will be comprised of the following members: school administrator, certified teacher, or related service provider with bilingual extension and/or certified teacher of English to speakers of other languages, director of pupil personnel services, student's parents, or person in parental relation. Can I have a motion, please? Dave, second. Craig? And any questions?
How many languages actually are we providing?
How many languages are actually, well, we don't provide languages in that sense. So I guess, Sandra, do you have a good answer to that?
I couldn't quite hear your question, Jim.
So ESL, English as a second language, it falls under this category. So do we have any idea of the multiple different languages in the school?
That are spoken? So
Yeah.
like Spanish, French,
So
Creole.
all of our current ELL identified students, their home first language is Spanish.
Spanish is the primary one, right?
It hasn't always been that way, but
Yeah.
probably for about the last 6 or 7 years it has been.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Go ahead.
Is there anything new in this that we have not been doing before? That we haven't been doing before?
We've had, this is a requirement we did for the first time last year, well, I guess I don't understand when
You were asking us to approve something with that fully report.
it's the same as last year.
Okay.
I just think these are things that we have to do every year. A
This
lot
is
of
a
this stuff,
requirement.
yeah, these are like things that we have to.
Would you like me to explain what this is specifically? It is a yearly requirement, and if a student might appear to need special education services, we first have to convene this committee to look at their L needs first before we can convene a special education.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. And we have J. Approval of the agreement between Taconic Hill Central School District and COARC for vocational internship interventions and instruction for high school students with disabilities for the 2020-2021 school year at a rate of $75 per hour for up to 400 hours per student. Motion, please. Motion. Joe, second. Joe, or Ron, I'm sorry. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, is there anybody for the second public forum?
Well, I do not have a sheet out, but I guess we'll open it up if anybody's got a comment.
Okay. All right, so we're going to do additional items now. So the first up is the NYSBA conference. Neil, you want to talk about that?
Sure. So it is going to be virtual. They did put in a law seminar, and that is going to be October 21st and 22nd. It seems like it's broken up quite a bit. Some topics are timely. I'm told that you got this flyer in the mail. So if you're interested in this, let me know. We'll set up a purchase order to participate in that. And the same will go for the convention. You should have received the newsletter today, in which said that the registration is open. Let me know, and then we can go ahead and make the proper arrangements for that. It is all virtual.
Okay.
But it's all at that time, it's all live, correct, live stream?
Yeah, it's supposed to be all live stream, not pre-recorded. So, what was the question? The dates on the convention.
It's usually like around Halloween, I know.
Yeah, it's typically right after October. I'm going to say the third week in October.
Well, if the law seminar is the 21st and 22nd, it's usually after that, because the law seminar is always first.
I had a feeling it was going on at the same time.
Oh, really?
But I'm not sure. So I'm looking for a date right now.
David, that's the same one we just went to.
I would think so.
Yeah, I would think
I'm gonna
so,
have
too.
to. For some reason, I'm not finding the date.
All right. Well, it's around the end of October every year, so just email us or whatever, a reminder, because I'll need one probably.
Okay, I'll have to check on that for you.
Okay. All right, and the next up is the workshop/retreat, or whatever we're going to call that.
Yeah, so I had a nice conversation with Mark Snyder. He was the individual who came down last time. If you remember, he was a board member at Schenectady City School Districts. And we had talked about the 23rd of September at 5 p.m. And so just checking your availability.
Okay.
I'm good.
So this is a half day in their terms, which is about 4 hours. So we should plan on being there till about 9 o'clock.
On the 23rd.
23rd, okay.
It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
Okay, everybody got that? Okay, next up, we're going to talk about what Craig wanted to talk about. You have the floor, Craig.
Well, just to repeat, first, I wanted to say that I agree something just anyway.
I know.
Thank you. If there were several hundred people, the votes would not get opened, did not get counted. I think that it was the first time it happened, this kind of voting. It was confusing to many people.
Okay, can you either get your mask off or, okay, thank you.
Probably.
Thanks. It just sounds it's just a little bit muffled with that.
There are many people in the community that believe that this is a form of voter suppression. I don't really care who those 300 people wanted to vote for, 3 candidates. This board made a very impassioned discussion when we were going to poll registration that the goal was to increase voter turnout, to increase community, accepting the community into our school. There are concerns about the cost. The cost for sending, Neil has suggested that we send a letter explaining, here's how you make sure you can vote next time. The cost of this program, in my calculation, is about $200. It's $5 for a ream of paper, $15 for a box of envelopes, 55 cents per stamp for this kind of bulk mailing. And I would volunteer my time to stuff the envelopes so there would be no impact on staff time or minimal impact on staff time. And whether it really is voter suppression or not, there is perception out there that I think we should honor and show them that we care about their votes and to continue to try to increase voter turnout as much as possible. I don't believe the vote last time for the board was done properly. It wasn't on the agenda. There was no motion. There was no second. It's not listed in the minutes from the acceptance agenda. And I'd like to hear from my fellow board members why they would not want to tell these people, here's how you can make sure you can vote next time.
Have we ever done this before?
Never.
Never.
I've asked board members from 20 years ago. This is the
Never.
only year we have a question, a little bit last year.
And actually, we did have,
So the vote was not attested the night of the election. It's over.
right.
It's over.
So
If we really want to check something, we have to check the election of 2017 when the board member lost by 9.
I'm not trying to say anything.
More important. I didn't interrupt you, all right, Greg? I'm going to finish, and we're going to vote again. And I guarantee you, we're not going to send them 345 letters, okay? This is ridiculous. This is not the board's job. The board's job is to oversee. The job of this is the clerk and administration. We approve how they do things. Greg, get your people. Heidi, has anybody come to you and say voters are being suppressed? Has anybody come to you, Ron?
No, but go ahead, finish it with yours.
Ron, there's no voter suppression. Has anybody come to you, Ron?
No.
Get something like the Savin Association did here. Get a letter like this, and I want to see these people's names. I want to know who these people are so concerned about voter suppression in our school.
Joe, how is someone who received an absentee ballot?
I'm sorry, Dave.
Excuse me.
Let me finish. This type of vote was a one-shot deal. So comparing to what we voted on to vote, this was mail-in voting. If we have walk-in voting next year, I bet you don't even hit 1,000.
Regardless of what next year might be, we had X number of return absentee ballots. People
They weren't
were,
absentee ballots.
Yeah, they were
excuse me,
absentee.
By mail.
Mr. Costa, you just insisted that we wait for you to finish. I would ask for the same respect. We sent out absentee ballots to supposedly every qualified voter. Now, if people's votes, for whatever reason, they weren't open, they were set aside, nobody is saying to open the votes and count it. What they are saying, and what I'm advocating for, is to inform the people whose votes were rejected, not opened, so that they are aware that they missed providing some sort of information that would demonstrate that they're qualified. Now, I would say myself in particular, I sent in my ballot the minute I got it. Literally, the minute that I got it. And I didn't make a copy of anything because the direction said, and the state mandate was, to all qualified voters. So I have no idea, since I didn't include any documentation, if my vote was counted.
So
And-
can I fill in here on some gaps? Okay, so there are rules that are published on how to fill a ballot out. So they're fairly simple. You have to seal the ballot. So if a ballot's not sealed, in theory, it should not be counted. You can't write on it. If you write anything on it, it invalidates it according to the rules. But I would urge the board to talk with their attorneys on this, because if you don't live in the world of education law, you don't. It's not the same as general election law. And so the nuances in the power that the Commissioner of Education has over this, it's very broad. So the school district did the best they could. But if you're going to go further in this discussion, I don't think you should have it without council present.
Well, we had council present last time we had this brief discussion, and Chris said you can send it, but you don't have to send it, and that was her counsel.
Well, I'm not so sure that was her counsel. I guess I would urge you to consult with her again.
Well, can we get her on the phone?
I don't have a phone.
I mean, she's not our personal counsel, she's counsel to the board.
So are you asking to get her on the phone now?
You,
I doubt we can get her on the phone.
okay, I mean, you've had her lined up in the past, I didn't know if you had her lined up for tonight.
That's usually what we, yeah, she's not expecting, yeah.
Make sure she's available.
I don't, go ahead, Ron.
I don't necessarily, I don't disagree. So I personally would like to see a general information go out to everybody, not to make these mistakes. Because there's only a certain amount of mistakes you could possibly make with an envelope. I mean, don't lick it, whatever the case may be. Don't scribble on it, whatever the case, whatever options are. There are only so many options. And maybe that needs to be plainly spoken out to everybody, not, to myself included, to be reminded. But, as far as talking with the attorneys, then this is something that we could talk about next month, and it's still going to be there. It's not an issue that has, right now, our biggest focus is COVID, not the voting. But I don't disagree with you. I just think that you don't have to have it specifically to Joe Smith. He needs to get an envelope saying, listen, Joe, this is what you did wrong. No, it should just be a generic letter that says, hey, these are 5 things you got to look for not doing, so that we can count your vote.
I'd be very happy with that.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. But we're going to talk to the attorney. I just think it's something we can wait till next month to do. And we can plan that.
So I'll put it on the agenda,
Thank
all right?
you.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Very fair, thank you.
Okay, next up is the hybrid discussion. Who wants to start? Looks like probably Dave.
Well, I certainly asked quite a few questions during the evening. So most of the things that I have concerns about Some have been answered in terms of some of the class sizes, which seems, it seems to reflect the survey that was done of the families, where I think about 24% of the families indicated they wanted remote instruction. But there was close to 26% of the families that indicated they would opt for a hybrid. So together, between remote and hybrid, half of the families that responded were anticipating or wanting and had expressed a desire to have some sort of remote instruction. Whatever that desire might have been based on. Obviously, the people who opted for 100% remote just felt at this time with COVID it's so uncertain that they were not comfortable taking that risk. Other families maybe judged it as, well, we want to get back to school. We certainly agree that for social emotional issues, it's important for kids to be with their peers, and maybe they saw it as a compromise, as a way that their children could participate, but still limit the risk. And I think we're missing that. I think we're missing the opportunity to start school in a measured way. In the spring, COVID hit us overnight, and we had to go 100% remote with, I think it was, 2-3 days warning, and no preparation. And the reverse could be that, well, we just go 100% in person, which is initially what we proposed, and then modified it to offering some remote. But it's not like having to be an all or nothing at all. There's clearly a group of students that we recognize that for whatever their family situations, whatever the resources might be at home, whether it's parental issues and supervision, and the need to have parents there to monitor what they're doing, need to be here. But there's also the notion that we're very possibly, and I think we all fear, that we could be in a situation where the numbers go up, whether they go up here specifically at Taconic Hills or in Columbia County or the region. Lots of things can trigger the going remote again. And by having students who have not been practicing that remote component, the notion of hybrid, everyone that I've read has offered that notion that there's some in-person and an equal amount of remote. With accountability, we certainly don't want kids to go home. And if we only had 20% participation, that's extremely disappointing and concerning. The notion of hybrid gives us that opportunity for them to come in, touch base, follow up in person, but yet still support their practicing and being remote, because if we're in that awful position again, for those kids who have not been practicing remote, they're going to be the same ones that were lost in the springtime. So I really think we need to look at tempering the plan, maybe phasing it in so that we're not overwhelmed, and some of the building cleaning issues that we talked about, maybe are more manageable, and we can get a handle and see what life is really like. Because I don't think any of us really know. And I think we're, in our desire to have students back, we miss them, they miss being here. Clearly, with the teachers that I've heard from, there's a great desire to be with their children again, but at the same time want it to be measured and manageable. So I think we really need to consider that.
Okay, just to counter that a little bit, I agree with a lot what you said. there are other factors. There are so many factors that play into what's going to go on. First of all, we heard someone say that I can't teach in class and teach, the Zoom or whatever you call it, at the same time. It's a difficult situation. So if you're talking, we heard Mr. Gould say, well then, he's right. Then you're actually exacerbating the situation if you say that you want to do a modified, hybrid, whatever you call it, situation. Now, that being said, there's no perfect solution to this. There is none. You can, for the best laid plans of mice and men, there are going to be issues for everything. I know that we have 22% of the people that said, I don't want to send my kids to school. Good for them that they can afford to do that. I hope they all show up to class and they all do maximize their time on the Zoom. But we have 78% of the people that are saying, guess what? I don't have the luxury of not sending my kid. He has to go. I want him to go. I want him to go, or I need him to go. And we have to understand that's also a component that we have to factor in. It was up to me in a perfect world, we take the year off. The kids would start graduating at 19 instead of 18. What difference does it make? As far as I'm concerned, we'd all be on unemployment for a year and then just hang out and they get back. But guess what? People need to work. That's not the reality we're in. So I don't know how you're going to justify telling 75 to 80% of the people, yeah, I know you want to come back here, but we're not going to be here. I go to work every day. I'm one of those people that
Essential? I'm essential?
I mean, one of those, I don't know how I'm essential. My wife doesn't think that. But the reality is that I check off just about every box there is, what do you call it, when you have conditions. I check off heart, diabetic, all those things. I am the smorgasbord of problems. I'm not asking for sympathy, I get it. But I have to go to work. I was told to stay home every day. I said, if that's the case, then guess what? The county's not getting the checks. I go in, I do what I have to do. I get it. There's a fear factor. I understand this. Believe me when I tell you, I don't want to see a single kid ever get sick, or a single teacher, or a single staff member of any sort. I hope everybody stays healthy for the rest of their life and has a wonderful time in their life. But the reality is, there are certain things we need to do. And you can't tell 80% of the people who need to go to work, because guess what? They can't pay their rent. They can't pay their mortgage. They can't put food on the table. Guess what? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep them at home, because you can't break up their week. I don't know what listen, I'm not saying it's a perfect solution. I'm just saying right now, I don't know how.
For me, the hybrid doesn't work because I'm looking at it from the kids' point of view. So you're going to have a group of kids that are going to come Monday, Tuesday, then they're not going to have anything on Wednesday, and they're not going to have anything on Thursday and Friday. So they literally are only in school for 2 days a week. To me, there's certain kids in our population that need consistency. They need structure. 5 days a week is structure. The parents that chose to keep their kids at home can afford to do that and be with them and hopefully, help educate them along with the teacher. So that's how I'm looking at it. Again, like Ron, I was the essential worker. My whole entire family, my 2 daughters, my husband, we have all worked in this for the last 5 months. And I work at UPS. I work with about 80 people. We wear masks. We do social distancing, which is very shady because it's not that great. And, we have hand sanitizer, wash your hands. We do all of the precautions. And out of 80 people in that building, we have not had 1 case of COVID. And again, it's about precautions. It's about being safe. It's about following the rules. And I get it. Kids aren't going to follow all the rules. Again, it's not a perfect world. But we have to do the best we can. I'm looking at it from the educational standpoint of our children. They need to come to school.
I just wanted to, since we were talking some numbers now, 50% of the families that responded to the district survey indicated that they would opt into either hybrid or totally remote. So it's not 75 to 80% of the people who don't have the resources. And you could certainly create...
You have a different number, right?
I'm looking at the survey right here.
Well, the survey was done in the beginning.
Oh, right.
And when we were trying to explore options, and We wanted to take the pulse of the
You did another
community and
one?
the parents. And out of that came the many, many different discussions, not only at our community level, but the communities across New York State. And we were trying to figure it out. And after, on multiple meetings, we came to the conclusion that hybrid might be fine for some sort of transition. But we felt as if we were ignoring the metrics. We're a very large building, 117 classrooms. We felt that we could socially distance appropriately. Now, is that going to require a fair amount of self-discipline and responsibility on everyone's part? Absolutely. And when you look at the metrics, our metrics are pretty solid for Columbia County. They're solid for the region. And we felt as if this was the best choice, educational-wise, for our kids. Yes, we were concerned about parents. Yes, we were concerned about staff. We were trying to think what was best for the children. And we've been working with the health department every step of the way.
Yes, sure, go Craig.
Okay, I have to be honest, I don't know where I stand on this as far as which is the best option. I just don't know, because as you say, Ron, no matter what you pick, it's going to be a problem.
That's right. Well, we made the decision that we thought that at some time we might go remote.
Sure.
So we thought that if we could get time in to build the relationships with the teachers in person, it would be better in the long run in case we did go remote. And that was a driving factor in some of our discussions.
Here are my two concerns, and this is true no matter which model you pick. I believe there could be a better cleaning plan, as we've discussed, and a better training plan. So, as some of you know...
Training for...
So let me give you an example.
Okay.
For the teachers, for the administration, for the students. So, many of you know that I work for IBM. And as part of my training as a manager, I actually had to sit through X number of hours of training for when employees return back to the workplace. And we're not there yet. Simple things which you think you know, which I'm not really doing very well, is even how to put a mask on. You only touch the bands, you don't touch the face. You have a bag that has a handle with a loop on it, so that when you take your mask off, only touching the band, you put it in the bag and you loop it around the loop so that it doesn't touch the bottom of the bag, and you label the back, front of the bag front and the back of the bag back, so you always put the mask in the same direction. And this is how you maximize your mask, have more sanitization than doing it the way I do it by just grabbing it.
I usually shove it in my pocket.
Which is, washing your hands. Does everybody know that you're supposed to twirl the ring on your finger to make sure? I mean, these are simple things, and I don't believe, let me just reword that. I believe there could be better training on how to stay sanitized and safe that should be standardized, and, I don't care if the CDC does this or doesn't do this, we can get this training.
Greg, what do you do when you pump your gas?
When I pump the gas, I always take a piece of paper. First of all, I never touch the keypad. I touch it with...
You put gloves on? You wear gloves?
I don't have a glove, but I'll maybe take a piece of paper that I put on my finger and I touch the buttons that way. I never touch the handle of the gas pump. I mean, these are things I thought of myself, but I think there could be better training this way.
Because I've seen people, and I just went through, and I actually do use
Right.
gloves for pumping gas. That's one of the major things, and nobody cleans.
Yes.
They don't go out and sanitize the gas pump ever.
Probably ever.
Years.
So-
Ever. I mean, if you were going to do something to protect yourself rather than
Right.
this all day is.
They actually show a video when I went through my training. When you take a sip of water, you do this. You take your sip of water, and then you do this, right?
The reality, kids are going to be responsible for this. They've been practicing.
Right.
Adults have been practicing. we have an experience with it. You haven't gotten sick.
All I
Other
know,
people haven't been
it-
sick here. I'm sure we've all done different levels of this,
I-
on a daily basis. And, thank goodness, everybody's been okay. The numbers are going down. The numbers in the county are down. It's definitely decreasing all
Yeah.
around. I certainly appreciate what the teachers are gonna have to go through, because I've been doing it for therapy for a couple of months now. It's hard. You have to change everything. It's harder for the little kids, by the way, than it is for the older kids. So you really have challenges with the younger grade. Your teaching style, you have to stay in the sight of it's hard. Nobody, denies that. You're gonna have to change your whole way of teaching so that you can work with the kids, the little ones especially, and project that image to the kids who are still at home doing it remotely. And hopefully, like, we said, there will be a parent there or somebody to supervise them. And that's actually the good part. That's the good part, because you get a chance to interact with the kids at home and the parents at home, or whoever, so on a different level, and that's really good. But you'll just learn how to do it. And if you're gonna do it for 2 days a week, why not do it for the full schedule, the full day?
the other point I wanted to make on training is it's not just training about how to stay sanitized and safe. I think we need a formal training on how to teach kids that are both on the screen and in the classroom at the same time. I gotta believe somebody, I don't
Who
know.
has expertise in that? We've never really
I
done
don't
that
know.
before.
Have we asked those questions? Have we sought that out? Have we done the research on that?
You learn it as you
I don't believe in just learning as you go. I gotta believe that somebody has thought about this question and may offer. I don't know, I haven't done the research myself, but.
We have thought about these issues, and we are setting up some block scheduling. There is a lot of information out there on YouTube. A lot of the information is being passed around. There is all sorts of vignettes on the CDC. They've been sent out. So there has been some of this to go on. I think with all the training in the world, it's still going to be difficult.
Absolutely.
I recommend to parents that
It's going to be difficult no matter how much you train, but I think there has to be a more methodical effort to get the research and put it out there to the staff. Here's the recommended training modules that you need to go through that will help you. Yes, it's not going to be perfect. Yes, you're going to learn as you go. Let's not just let them figure it out.
So I think we're talking about two different things.
Okay.
I think some of the stuff that I've sent you guys has been some of the mandated trainings that are required to occur in the superintendent's conference days in the beginning of the year. Needham Associates is doing those. Yeah, they cover masks, they cover hand washing, and at least two other issues there. But I know that most of the elementary teachers teach hand washing anyway.
Okay. Has there been any training to help a teacher facilitate teaching kids remotely and in person at the same time? Has any of that training gone on?
That's all new territory,
Not
really.
at this point, but if you're talking a dry run, I would say we had from March to June to do some of that online training. Because to me, it's...
Right, but to me, everybody's sort of trying and doing that and practicing that on their own.
It depends upon the learner. It's not focused on the direction, on the person who's providing this. The buy-in component, the engagement has to be with the student. And if the student doesn't have it, what are you going to do? Are you going to scold them over the internet? No, you can't do that. And it's a different way to teach.
I'm a true believer in on-the-job training, believe me, and creativity and all that.
I think there needs to be a supplement where somebody must have looked at this issue and to make that available for your staff to go through prior to, number one. And number two, maybe create, work groups where people share these experiences. I'm sure it's going on anyway,
Yeah.
informal basis, but it
Yes,
needs to be
they are.
formalized. That's my point of view. It needs to be formalized.
I can guarantee this. I can guarantee I can look into it. Again, in my opinion, it's all about the learner and how they react and the art of teaching and how you adapt to the different circumstances that the children present, whether it's in person or remote. So with that said, Sandra, do you have a comment?
Yeah, so let me speak to the training that's in plan. I have a whole list in my office, and I'll try to remember as much of it as possible off the cuff. First of all, we have Needham, and they are going to train all staff, every single person that works for Taconic Hills on COVID safety. That's supposed to happen on
COVID safety.
I'm sorry, guys, I gotta stand up, I can't sit too long.
COVID safety.
That is going to happen September 1st. And we've held true to that because we did not want anyone to spend even the first day of working without having that training. So that is being held on September 1st. I've had some pushback about that because people want to be in classrooms and working in classrooms instead of getting that training. But we are going to hold to that training meeting September 1st. So they will have all the basics of COVID safety that they need that first time they come back on campus. After that, we also have training planned for working remotely as well as in person, and that's going to happen a few times. The first time will be September 1st. Then we are planning a parent-student orientation with all teachers zooming out at the same time on September 8th, so that parents and students have a chance to experience the joint environments of the virtual classroom with the in-person classroom. And that will happen September 8th for about an hour's worth of time. That's going to allow John to also check the broadband to make sure all the technology is in place. So before that first day of instruction starts, everybody's had a chance to experience it. In addition to that, we have many workshops planned about social emotional learning and coming back to school after a break since March and addressing students' social emotional needs. We have workshops planned for looking at the standards. What's the most important standards? We refer to them sometimes as the power standards for what you need to focus on in your classroom, K through 8. We have a Questar specialist that's going to do that training with our K through 8 teachers, and that has been developed with all of the school districts in the area. We also have CASDA, which is a well-known professional development agency working with SUNY Albany that is going to do PD for us on block scheduling. We're speaking with her this afternoon about our specific needs, and she also addressed many of those other things of working in that joint environment. She understands the environment that we're creating, and that training is also being developed with frequent interactions between administration, the trainer, so that we meet the needs of the teachers. So those are the top ones. There are several others that the teachers have also requested that we have planned, including social emotional wellness, the 5 characteristics that students need to learn in order to have a strong social emotional wellness presence, as well as restorative justice. We had a group book study on that this summer, and there's a core group of teachers that are willing to train their other teachers. Also, I want to remind the board that they have created a position of a technology integration specialist. So we offer PD 5 days a week, all day long. That's key. There's not a lot of districts that offer that. So at any time, a teacher or a student or an administrator can receive professional development in technology instantaneously. That's huge. So that is going to be a key person in helping teachers with this environment. Is there anything else I can answer about PD?
No, but I think we need to, we need to move this along now. So is there anybody else that needs to say anything? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say one thing, just to reach out to the people that are here. I personally, you guys are great, and I have a lot of confidence in you. I know you were shaking your head, but I really think that you can do that. You have the skills, you have the personalities, you have the, so I just want to let you know that I have total confidence that you'll do it, and also that the school will provide a safe environment, a safe learning environment for the kids and for the teachers and for the staff. So I see it more as a positive than a negative, and obviously you have the support here from the administration. So, you know, that's just what I wanted to say to you folks here.
Hi, everybody had to say, you gonna say something? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
As far as the hybrid or all in or all remote, you're either going to get covered every other day or once a week. That's like making a hybrid. All in or all home. That's the way I feel. And as far as training, I don't think the problem's here. The problem's Lowe's, Walmart, the banks, Tractor Supply, Home Depot. I've been to all of them. And I've watched people that are COVID professionals, and they're COVID professionals for about 10 minutes. And they do that one thing. Then it's a walk. You know, so they act like they're COVID professionals. But 90% of the people out there, I'm telling you, I give them an F on COVID safety. I watch people do these things. The gloves, the $5 glove to do the gas, does it all and then puts the cap back on with his bare hand. I was going to tell him, I said, you know what? I'm not going to waste my breath. You know? And as far as the banks, you go in the bank, you punch the keypad, they wipe the window, they wipe the keypad. You go in the drive-thru, that bill goes back and forth 5 times and nobody cleans it. You push the button for the teller, nobody cleans it. Walmart, one day they wipe the pad, one day they don't. Hanford, they don't wipe the pad. Sometimes they do. So everything is up in the air.
Good? All right, so what are we doing at this point? Are we taking a head count as to, it looks like, I mean, we're pretty much all on the same board except maybe Dave. I mean, right? I'm not in favor of hybrid, so I'll put that out there. I'm not in favor. Ron?
I'm in favor of coming in.
Joe?
I'm in favor of coming in.
Terry?
I'll go with what the plan is.
Heidi?
I obviously am on the fence because my child will be doing remote, but I am confident and I feel lucky to be a parent that can offer that to my child.
Fair enough. Dave?
I've already stated what my opinion is. My bigger concern, which I articulated earlier in the evening, is all of the things that everybody has said. We don't know, but everybody has a valid opinion. They have concerns. There's a lot of unknown. And regardless of how we open, I go back to what I said earlier. Having staff, whether it's the teachers, whether it's the maintenance staff, custodial staff, bus drivers, having staff that buy into a plan leads to success. And I'm concerned because there doesn't seem to be the buy-in. For whatever the reason is, whatever the concerns might be, we could discuss those ad nauseum because clearly everybody has an opinion on this. But the bottom line is, we as a district need to make sure that all members of the school community are comfortable and buy into what we're offering. That not only for staff, but for families. And I think it's obviously very difficult, you know, when you have a board member who, and I don't mean to single you out, but you just said it, you know, uncomfortable sending your child back. Other people might be comfortable, and clearly there are people who don't know. And, you know, we're providing an environment for them. But unless there's buy-in by everybody, it's not a plan that's, in my mind, is
You're not
going
gonna
to be
get
successful.
you're not gonna get it for everybody, that isn't gonna happen. That's life.
I
That's the
realize
world.
you're not you're certainly not going to get it from 100%. But I hear this evening, and I've heard for the past 2 weeks in emails, concerns about buy-in. Now, clearly this evening, I heard things that were being presented that had not been presented before and felt a little bit more comfortable about some situations. But it still leaves the issues that I talked about, that in the event we have to go remote, you have not practiced and trained students to be remote. And it would be the same experience those kids that we lost in the springtime. And
Well, it looks like they're gonna get that training according to Sandra, so that's gonna happen.
well, if they're not at home.
That's teacher training, right? That's not
No, I'm
student
talking
training.
about the
No,
students.
she said parents as well.
That was for the people who opted for remote. That you-
No, it's for everybody.
Everyone.
We're gonna put it out.
Everyone's getting it.
So, and there'll be an hour, I heard you say,
Right.
there'll be an hour where this might be going on, and an hour for 1,200 students seems to be,
That's what was requested through the teachers at the PD committee, is that they wanted that opportunity to make sure, as well as John is very much in favor of that opportunity, to make sure everybody can Zoom out with all of
right, technically.
Yeah, the technical
Right,
piece.
yeah, no, I hear that.
Well, Craig.
That there's a verification.
I just want to wrap this up because it is late, Dave, so if you could just please.
Well, you asked.
I know, well, no, I just asked if what you were in favor of. Craig?
Well, I'll go back and say that I'm not going to make a recommendation for either hybrid, all in,
Okay.
all out, or whatever. But what I will say is that I listed these two components of cleaning and training that need improvement.
I agree with that.
And I also agree with Dave's point about, because I don't know which is the best plan personally. I'm not really the expert.
Understand.
But I do know, as an experienced manager, that it is important to have buy-in of the employees. And so I'm wondering what we can do to get that buy-in to optimize the best chance of success. And I don't know if there's, this is really Neil's job, and I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but if there's some way to reconnect with the teacher staff and figure out how to get that buy-in for whatever plan is being put in place, we'll have a much better chance of success.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And maybe it's cleaning and training, or maybe it's 3 other things, or
Right.
whatever it is. I don't know. That's not my place.
Okay. All right, so that's gonna do it. We're gonna go into, I need a motion to go into executive session for contract negotiations and potential litigation. Motion, Ron, second. Joe, all in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Good night, folks.